Good evening then, ladies and gentlemen, across the world. Welcome aboard to WORLD. Welcome to the Legacy Division here across platform as we now enter into the qualifiers of WORLD live in Australia. It is myself, Jota, once again alongside you, this time with Callum Gibson, Callum G, the GOG himself, as we are currently watching the first lobby of drivers who are all going out their way to really work their hardest at the moment to try and qualify, of course, for this division. Callum, nice to be alongside you for this one. Crucial round here, as of course going into 2023, it was a bit of a mad one when it comes to the silly season.
Yes, it certainly was. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. A big evening for many drivers and many teams alike across both platforms. The first time in WOR is a cross-platform season, and it is in the Legacy Division. It's a big one. 28 teams competing to be a part of this season, and that will be cut down to just 10 within the next couple of hours. So yeah, a big couple of sessions ahead. I am certainly looking forward to it.
Yeah, certainly. We've got to try and crop down now the cream of the crop, the 20 sort of drivers. Of course, the 10 teams will be decided in this event, and of course, as always, it is a cross-platform event here, so we are expecting a wide variety of Xbox and PlayStation platforms across the board as the first lot of drivers coming across here. We've got TF10's Markados coming across the line with the fastest so far with that 17.1, and then you've got Slinky for JR 17.373, and then Fabi, of course, TF10 again 17.935. Schumacher, though, coming across the line with that 1.16.7 in the not-so-familiar Ferrari, I'd have to say, for that name. Very quickly gives us a chance to have a look at what we've got coming up then. Of course, now in Lobby 1, we are racing with a selection of teams across the board. Juventus racing with NLR, WOR, Shazoo and TF10 running riot in the first lobby tonight, and it's going to be a very, very interesting one across the board with the other lobbies that are also going to be setting up. We're going to have 4 lobbies here tonight, so don't be afraid to just keep an eye out on what's happening while you're tucking into your tea tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big one. This first round. It's a little bit of a strange one as well because they don't really know what the benchmark's like for these guys. They've been doing loads of practice. I'm sure they'll know what a good lap time is, but it's not easy. They don't know exactly when they're going to be through. These guys will set their laps, and when this sort of session's done, they'll be sitting and waiting, watching these other 4 lobbies. So it is a strange one for these guys tonight, but they need to go out there, give it their best, and yeah, with 13 minutes left, there's still definitely a lot of lap time to be found.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just keeping an eye out on ADT's Uppbeat as he's coming across through now in that Williams. Is looking crisp and sharp, to say the least. So it was a little bit wide at that corner. It wouldn't surprise me, actually, if we take a look to see that he's now actually invalidated on that particular occasion, of course. Now, also worth making note, of course, there will be no racing tonight. These drivers are all going to be out of their way, racing the best that they possibly can, but of course, this is a qualifying event for this event, and therefore the drivers will be racing to get the fastest lap they can in sort of time trial style, and that obviously brings a completely different element to these drivers who are all looking just to sort of topple their best here. Here's WOR with Nahima, who comes across the line 7th place so far. It's 7 and a bit tenths down on the leader at the moment. Schumacher, of course, racing in the other WOR car at the moment, WOR Ferrari, but 0.783 seconds down at the moment out of all of those drivers. Fastest lap still, though, in the 1:16s with Schumacher.
Yeah, an important thing to mention tonight, it's a time trial system, but for teams to qualify, it is the average time of both drivers, and that is a very, very important thing. Obviously, Legacy Division is a team event, and that is especially a case tonight. It is an average time in both laps set by the 2 drivers in your team. So, an example would be Schumacher and Nemia for WOR. Those times would then be put together, and then the average would be what their qualifying time would be. So it's really important for both drivers to try and get a good lap in. I think that is kind of illustrated perfectly here with WOR at the moment, because you've got one driver top of the timings and then another one struggling a little bit down in P7 at the moment, a 17.5.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just keeping an eye on Shazoo here. Here's Shazoo's Tom, the number 45 Alpha Tauri on this particular occasion. Keeping it nice and tidy as he's heading through the first sector at the moment. He'll be heading across into the second sector in just a brief moment, but he immediately invalidates on that particular occasion. I think this is why this track is actually a really good testing bed here for this qualifying, because you've got that mixture, haven't you, of sort of tight bends, but then the long straights where, of course, you can make the crucial mistake of wearing a setup that's a bit too low downforce, resulting in understeer, like we've just seen there with Shazoo's Tom. So he's yet to set a lap at the moment. It's still 11 minutes to go in this lobby. And of course, worth remembering, as we said, there's no racing, so these drivers have really got these 10 minutes to show themselves immediately if they want to qualify for WORLD this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I think is interesting about this qualifying event is it's Australia. It is not an easy track at all. You're on the limit for every single corner of it. I think the last event was at Spain. It's a bit more of an easier track. It's not as fast flowing. It's a little bit more conservative. But Australia, it's a complete opposite. You're really going at 100 mile an hour. You have to commit to every corner, and that just leaves you vulnerable to mistakes, track invalidation, spins. You name it, that will happen tonight, and I think it's definitely got the making of a couple of upsets across the sessions. So yeah, just keep an eye out on that one, because this track is certainly not an easy one to qualify around.
Yeah, absolutely. Just on board with the Alpine here now of Slinky as he's keeping it very, very tight on the corner through turn one, actually. Very well taken, I'd have to say, actually, as he heads through now into turn number 3. And I want to keep it nice and tidy through here, because it's where you usually make or break your lap around here. You know, you want to try and make sure that you get your first sector about right, and you can lay the foundations for a good lap around here. So all about just trying to sort of see out the horizons. And to be fair, up at a 10th and a half, but immediately go on off the circuit. And again, that may just be the look of the draw at that particular corner, because some people may be preparing themselves for a sharper corner that's no longer there.
Yep, tough one there for Slinky, still sitting with that 17.3. His teammate as well at the moment as well is also invalidated, so the two Alpines at the moment not having the best time of things out there, and they'll be looking to definitely improve. I think drivers and teams alike will be looking to at least be maybe mid to high 16s. I think a 0.6 maybe is where teams will be looking to try and get to if they seriously want to look at trying to qualify for this. So yeah, a bit of improvement needed for the two Alpines at the moment. I'm just looking at NLR Justin at the moment now as he's coming into that tricky turn 9 and turn 10. It's a really tricky left-hander now into a right-hander just following after it. Tricky curb on the outside as well, but navigated pretty nicely so far for the Williams. A 17.231 is a time to his name, I should try and say, as he's coming through that right-hander there. Third gear up into fourth, really nicely done so far, nice and smooth from the Williams, and this should possibly be an improvement, but commentator's curse there slightly invalidated that one there. And yeah, no improvement for the Williams.
Yeah, disappointing stuff that from the Williams and NLR, who have got their driver up in 5th place at the moment. Their teammate yet to set a lap time, actually. Uppbeat will be hoping at least this will be the time that he's missed his apex, certainly going through the penultimate corner. Going into the final corner then, as he's going to get maybe a slight tow from the car in front, but I'm not expecting anything too major. As he comes across the line now, can he get into the 60s? He certainly can. He goes actually fastest of anyone, does the NLR driver, as he now goes to 16.7. That puts him above Schumacher WOR by just a little smidge over 400ths of a second. Good lap from NLR.
Yep, huge lap there, and I'm sure he'll be buzzing with that one. Certainly will take the pressure off slightly as well for that final few runs, maybe 1 or 2 runs left in the session for him. So yeah, I'm sure he'll be pretty happy with that one. Shizou Tom down in P10 at the moment, no time yet to his name. He'll be looking to really improve that one. Shizou, a huge name. We've seen them compete last year in World with 2 Xbox drivers, but they've elected for 2 PlayStation drivers to fly the flag for him tonight. Tom, we know how good of a driver he is, and yeah, not been a good showing from him so far, so you'll be looking to try and at least get a lap on the board very, very soon.
Yeah, interesting scenario then in coming into Lobby 1 as we're just over the 10-minute mark in this qualifying session, and as it stands at the moment, the 2 fastest drivers are in NLR and WOR, but the consistent team so far is actually TF10 in Lobby 1 at the moment, 16.9, 17.0, definitely putting themselves in touching distance of qualifying if they keep that consistency up, because of course, even though that you've got the faster lap times coming in from Uppbeat and Schumacher, the teammates being a little bit lower down will even the score up, and TF10 I think certainly are going to be the team probably most happiest so far.
Yeah, absolutely, and you would expect nothing less for a team of their calibre. Nearly got both drivers into those 16s, and with a bit of time left in the session as well, I'm sure there's certainly room for improvement. You wouldn't want anything worse than going into the last few runs with no time to your name or in the mid-17s, so it's good from them. They've got the good laps in, and it just allows them to drive with a little bit more confidence in these last few runs. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. TF10 are looking very strong in these early stages.
Just keeping an eye out on Juventus' Slinky as he's now coming across the final corner now, and he's going to be a driver just starting his lap. I believe Schumacher coming around the corner to start his lap, but of course it'll be the first person to set a lap time, I believe, on this particular set of runs will be from Juventus, who themselves 7th and 8th respectively, so they've got the consistency both in the 17.3s, but need to find a little bit more pace, I'd have to say, if they want to try and compete.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think, as I said earlier, you're looking to be in the 16s absolute minimum, and that's not what we've seen from them so far. But 6 minutes left, I should say. That's another invalidations there for Slinky, so that is not going to be an improvement anytime soon. Just looking at his teammate, he's coming through turn 1 as well, as he really nailed that one there. That's emphasised by your little thigh as well. So yeah, he's looking good as Francesco here, and yeah, just keep an eye on him because he's looking hopefully to try and get into those 16s.
Yeah, absolutely pushing it through turn 1. He absolutely rode the curves. I think this is one thing that I think has been a bit of a meme in the Twitter community, hasn't it, actually? How much PlayStation can ride the curbs versus Xbox. And in that scenario, absolutely working a treat to Francesco's advantage for Juventus, as he's now just heading around the long right-hander, then the long left-hander as he turns into what was the old turn 10 and turn 11. Now, going to keep it nice and tidy, because as long as they can keep it in touching distance and not lose the rear end too much, which looks to me, he actually got a little bit of a problem with understeer, and in that scenario he actually drove past one of the Ferraris, and I believe that is actually WOR's Schumacher, who's actually spun out on that particular occasion. But unfortunate stuff for Juventus, looking fairly sharp. They keep invalidating, and they're going to find themselves in trouble. We'll keep an eye out on Neymar, however you pronounce his name. Either way, it might just be Neymar actually, now thinking about it. We'll have to see. Anyway, he's heading down now into the third sector to start on his lap here, so he'll be one to watch. Jesus Tom still invalidating his laps here, as Uppbeat struggles and also invalidates, and probably invalidates the next lap as well at the final corner. So why don't we actually have to come over now to TF10, and we'll actually go to Marcados at the moment. We're currently in fourth place with a 17-0, so he'll be happy to get into the 16s if he can, and at the moment fairly sharp in the first sector.
Yeah, certainly is. Unfortunately, slightly down, I should say, now coming into that left and right-hander. But a little bit of time now to try and make up in this final sector. Just threw that there as well. Slinky spun it on his next lap, and I was just going to mention as well, Shizu Tom not having a great time of it. He's back into the pit lane, as you said, with that invalidation. But Marcados, he is not worrying about that. He is absolutely flying, and a possible improvement could be on the cards here, coming into the penultimate corner, fourth gear through there. Really nice exit, and now just setting himself up for this final corner. Using every little inch of track possible, and it's very nicely done from the Mercedes. It's a fairly short run to the line now as he comes across the line, and it's a 16.9, I should say. It's P3 in the standings, and certainly it's a good lap.
Yeah, really good lap in TF10 again, and establishing some serious VSR sort of style when it comes to their consistency between the two drivers. Really good stuff. 9,000ths of a second separating the pair of them, as Fabi goes even faster and goes into the 16.8s, and again within a 10th of his teammates. So TF10 really starting to flex some muscle here, and while this is all happening, I think one of the big hitters in Shizu at serious risk of potentially not qualifying here, with Tom not setting a lap time, and he's got probably only a couple of chances left if he leaves the pits immediately here. So just keep an eye out on Neymar as he comes across the line, trying to improve on his 17.5 if he can, as he comes across the line and goes into the 17.1s, 2/10 slower than Shizu's Rowan, but well off the pace versus his teammate Schumacher. As it stands at the moment, though, the home team, a little bit of distance between the two drivers.
Yeah, the home team probably not looking too favourable in terms of qualifying. You know, you're looking at it, you're combining those two times. It's what, about 16.8, 16.9, and that's very marginal. So at 3 minutes left, I think maybe he can get around and go again. But yeah, all eyes on Schumacher in terms of him trying to improve. And it has to be said as well, Shizu are not looking good. Shizu Tom, no lap time to his name. Rowan, a 17.1 for a team that finished third last season in the world started maybe fourth in the world standings. He was expecting a hell of a lot better, so a lot riding on these next 3 minutes for Shizu, because this can absolutely make or break if they make it into world.
Yeah, and just had full confirmation actually from the leader himself, Mr. Humperdinck, I believe, who was doing the commentary over on the YouTube channel at the moment, that if you don't set a lap time for whatever reason, the lap time that driver will get will be a 1 minute 20.0, which he describes, quote, as basically no qualification. So if Shizu Tom doesn't at least get into the 1 minute 17s, you'd have to argue here that he is potentially going to be in serious trouble, to say the least. We'll keep an eye out on Francesco there at the moment. The Juventus looking to try and improve. They know they've got the pace to get above a 17.3, but at the moment they keep invalidating their lap times in similar circumstances to Tom, and that's leaving them in a bit of trouble here. Though they will get at least into the 17s, they may be out of the potential of qualifying as it stands, as we'll just have a little hop over and just keep an eye out and see what's happening at the moment around the board, as I'm just seeing some drivers. I believe one of the Ferraris is pitted, and that's actually Neymar. Doesn't look like he's coming out by the looks of things, so that might be it for Neymar. We'll have to see. Is he leaving the pits now? He is leaving the pits now, actually, so in that situation we might actually get at least another lap from one of the WR drivers, as in fact Schumacher is staying in by the looks of things, happy with the 16.7, and I would be as well. Just keep an eye on Francesco. Fair play to him. He's kept it within the track limits. And Juventus looking to try and improve on that 17.3 as he comes across now into the third to final corner, into the penultimate corner, and he'll want to try and keep it nice and tidy if he can. Across into the final corner, he's going to get a lovely toe as well, actually, from another driver. I believe it's one of the Alpha Towers, perhaps Rowan, as it comes across the line now to Francesco and into the 16.8, and that is the lap that Juventus absolutely needed.
Yep, absolutely. Just looking, Shizu Tom now on a lap coming to the end of it. It is valid, crucially, for him so far. So good for the AlphaTauri man, but a little bit deep there. Going into turn 11 isn't going to do his lap time any good. Fifth year through here. A little bit hastened, you have to say. I think on the back of his mind, he knows he has to get a valid lap time, or it could be game over. Just one last corner to navigate. Now, this final corner, the right-hander using every bit of track possible, and there you have it. That is a lap for Shizu Tom, and what lap time will it be? He comes across line. It's a 16.8. There you go.
And that might just brought Shizu right into the mix, and suddenly TF10 are going to be looking over their shoulders. Markados comes across the line and only gets a 16.9. He doesn't improve on his position, but does manage to improve on his lap time by a 1/10.5. And Rowan for Shizu, also crucially, 1.5 tenths up in the second and 1/10 up in the first. So we'll have to see how he does in these last dying seconds in his qualifying session. Suddenly looking a little bit sharper now for some of the drivers out on the field here, as we've just got, I believe, Erdpec is up into the first place here, and I'm just keeping an eye to see who came across the line. I believe it might have been Slinky for Juventus with a 16.7, as Juventus looking really sharp indeed here, with two drivers with a 16.7 and a 16.8. Rowan comes across the line with a 16.7 of his own, and now makes it some serious competition in Lobby 1.
Yeah, he certainly does. Shizu have stepped up to the plate at the end there. Rowan and Tom have done fantastic stuff there. Two TF10 guys still going at it as well. Marketos as well. I think he's just about kept that one valid coming through turn 10 there. So let's see what he can do as he's approaching this final sector now. A little bit deep once again into turn 11, just like Tom a few moments ago. But let's see what he's doing through his long right hander. Oh, he's a little bit wider, but it's not an invalidation. Lady Luck certainly on his side with that one there. But now he's still going, he's still marching on, and improvement is virtually vital here for the TF10 driver. A bit of a moment. Oh, this a spin out the final corner, and all of that hard work is absolutely gone undone. As unfortunately for Markados and possibly for TF10, that is not going to do their chances of qualifying any good.
Yeah, Nahimar also down the order of the slowest of anyone with that 17.1. Fabi is a little bit calmer coming out the final corner. I'm not sure Markados' lap time would have stood in the rules anyway. As he comes across the line, he's actually down 22 thousandths of a second as TF10 end with a 16.8 and a 16.9 of their home. Obviously no speculation on what their current lap times are. Of course, that will be decided over on the WOR League Twitter. Feel free to start to check into that one as Nahimar comes across the line and gets into the 16.8s himself, you know, and that suddenly has brought WOR, the home team, right into the mix here, and suddenly what was looking fairly sharp for TF10 might be a big gulp.
Yep, you're absolutely right with that one, and just how it all changed within those last couple of moments. They all saved their best for last, that's for sure, and yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting. Obviously, it's so hard to tell this early on what's enough, what's maybe not. This could be the quickest lobby we've got, and all these teams could be through, or it could be the complete opposite. But it's definitely a starters for 10. And yeah, one thing to notice as well, it is a super, super close grid so far.
Well done to NLR, fastest of Lobby 1 through Erpec with Williams, 16.714, but just breathing down the neck, Juventus Racing with their 16.7 of their own, and then Rowan for Shizu, 16.7 as well. Schumacher at 1 point fastest of anyone, 41 thousandths down. Actually, the top 5 all separated by less than a tenth, with Shizu's Tom coming across the line out of nowhere with that 16.8, which has given Shizu a really big sigh of relief that they could be in the mix for this one. We'll see what's coming up next as we then head through into the next lobby, and at the moment I believe the next lobby is going to be heading through to lobby number 2, and lobby number 2 I think under the impression is these guys, as we've got BRT, ET8, we've got the Talent Factory, we've got SLR, we've got the Drive Team, and of course we have got Team QRT coming up on this particular qualifying session. I must say, what an interesting set of events has been happening here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just incredible how close it's all been. That is the big surprising thing for me. When you've got 28 teams, I was expecting a couple just to be well off it. Even in every lobby, you'll have a team that's maybe just not really there. But so far, and out of all those 5 teams, they all gave a fantastic account for themselves. All the drivers should be super proud of their performance, even if it might not be enough. But yeah, very, very interesting first lobby. And yeah, bring on lobby 2.
Yeah, certainly, definitely. I'm looking forward to seeing what we've got coming up, actually. Of course, we're going to have an additional team, obviously, joining us. It was 5 teams on the first occasion. It will be 6 on this one, of course, with QRT racing in the Aston Martin. We've got the team we'll get there in the end. I believe we've got the drive team racing in the Mercedes. We've got SLR in the Red Bull. We've got, I believe, the Talent Factory in the McLaren. ET8 are racing in the Haas. Nice to see them again. And then BRT are racing with, as to be expected, in the Ferrari, to be fair. Looking forward to seeing what we've got coming up on this one, actually, because this is going to be a very interesting one indeed. And I think, actually, I just want to take this opportunity to just pay a very small tribute, as well, as we sort of see Shazoo out of that particular lobby, to wish my high regards and best wishes, of course, to LCR Leopard, the former Shazoo driver, who, of course, retired at the end of last season, and a very well-respected member of the team. Callum, as you know him very well. Really, really nice guy, and I think we can all wish him the best.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo your words there. I think first-hand getting to see him in Legacy Division last year, and how much of a special driver he is. So yeah, he certainly will be missed. Not only just for his personality, but also just that unique driving skills that we've seen week in, week out. So yeah, he certainly will be missed.
Yeah, certainly it will be missed on the grid later down the line. So if you just want a little breakdown of who we've got actually racing at the moment. So for ET8, who are going to be racing in the Haas, they're racing with Oscar and Ryder Dahl tonight, so that's going to be an interesting one as well. And a fan favourite racing for the BRT team, Bunga Racing Team racing with Carsey and Meatball. It's going to be a very, very interesting one in that one. And then over in Team Mercedes with the Drive team, our Team Drive. However, it is announced anyway. We've got Thomas racing with Chicken Rosary racing for them. In the McLaren for the Talent Factory, it will be none other than Rudy and Black Box. And then racing in the... where shall we go next? Where should we go next? We'll go for Aston Martin, I think, because I think that's the last one, isn't it? Yeah, probably. Either way, QRT for Aston Martin racing with QRT, Benza and Snipes. And very, very quick driver is Snipes, actually. We're expecting big things from Team QRT tonight. Might be one of the upfronters alongside BRT. This is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's a mixed grid as well. This one, Xbox and PlayStation. That first lobby was exclusively PlayStation, so we've now got a little bit of familiar names for us anyway on the Xbox side of it. But it'll be interesting to see how these two match up. Interesting to see if there's differences in the way they drive as well. You mentioned it earlier on about PlayStation maybe being allowed to take a little bit more curb, but I'm not too sure how much there is in that. But I think we'll get to see it firsthand when you've got two different platforms going side by side. So that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye out on as well. So yeah, this should be a pretty interesting one.
Yeah, certainly will. So obviously going out of that particular race, must say it was a very, very interesting set of events, to say the least, in what was actually a bit of a fun ride on that first lobby, I'd have to say. Thoroughly enjoyed the experience of seeing so many teams out on the field again. Must say it was, what's the right way to say it, Cal? It was like, going back to last year, how intense it was between a lot of teams. We're now looking forward to a brand new season of racing with some serious talent on the grid. However, crucially, we're going to be in a position where the drivers are all mixed up now. We had a really, really aggressive season, didn't we? An aggressive, silly season. We had some big names dropping from different teams and going to different ones and everywhere. So what are we to expect, do you reckon, this season with some of those names moving around?
I can't really give you a definitive answer on that. It's just, as you mentioned, it's just so crazy. And then there's also just the addition, I think, from our point of view, I'll speak for myself here. I don't really know a lot of these people coming from PlayStation. When you only commentate or you're only around the Xbox area, it's a complete new kind of spanner in the works when you've got all these new guys coming on, even like, for example, Shazoo. We've seen them on Xbox, but then their PlayStation drivers are taking over in World tonight. So I think it's really interesting. I think it's going to be pretty chaotic, and it makes this just even more competitive when you've got 27 teams. I mean, it's ridiculous. The 10 teams that will be qualifying will be 10 at a very, very high level. You're not going to have any slouches. No teams or drivers off the pace. Everyone that qualifies tonight will be absolutely on it, and I think that will just make for a fantastic season when it comes around.
We are back then for the next round of WOR LD's Qualifier as we head over to lobby number 2, and here we are live in Australia for this, of course, upcoming short qualifying event. If you are just tuning in, it is myself, Jota, alongside the OG himself, Callum G. Again, this is going to be a very interesting lobby as we head through into lobby number 2, as what we've got coming up effectively is another 18 minutes of extremely quick driving, though now with two extra drivers, of course. The one to watch in this lobby, if you are wanting to keep a firm eye on some of those drivers, is probably going to be QRT Snipes racing for Team QRT in the Aston Martin, though don't count anyone out here, including none other than the fan favourite of Carsey. Going to be absolutely wonderful to see how these drivers are going, as they're all immediately leaving straight out of the pits.
Yep, I think the interesting one about this lobby is I think we've got 2 teams I think that were formerly in World last season at ET8 and BRT, of course, so maybe I'm wrong and correct me if I am, but I think I am right in saying we've got 2 teams that have competed last year, so it'll be intriguing to see if these guys have got the hunger to try and go again. I'm sure they have. We obviously mentioned Carsey, a fan favourite, a winner in Tier 2 last year. He didn't race much in Tier 2 on Xbox, but I remember the one race he raced at Spain he won, that's my only kind of memory of him, but yeah, great driver, and I'm looking forward to see what he can do. But also the PS guys as well, don't know personally a lot about them, but they'll be looking to be up for it as well. You mentioned Snipes, he sounds like a good driver. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do, and yeah, this lobby should be pretty good.
Certainly looking forward to seeing what we've got coming up in this particular session, as we've got the chat absolutely blowing up. 124 of you currently tuned in for this live qualifier for WOR. Thank you very much to every single one of you tuning in, of course, and I hope you have all had a wonderful Christmas and, of course, a happy new year as well. This will be my first stream back as well since we turned over to the year 2023, so I do hope you're all doing very well and didn't get too drunk over the period. We are going to keep an eye out at the moment on QRT's Benzer, who actually had a little bit of a moment looking at this, actually, as he's nearly getting in the way of one of the Hassers, actually. I believe that actually was ETA Oscar who wanted to get past that Aston Martin quickly and just get on with it, and the number 7 will be looking very keen to get going here as ETA Oscar comes across the final corner, and he'll be starting with his first lap, and I think this gives him an opportunity to go on board with the calendar himself to give us a little rundown of this wonderful circuit, Albert Park.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic circuit, of course, and it can be a pretty aggressive one at that, and that all kind of starts off with that pretty crazy turn 1 if you navigate it well, which he has done so far. Into turn 3 here, this right-hander, not easy either into this pretty sweeping left, avoid the curve on the inside, but also that one on the outside as well can be pretty brutal as well. Flat out right-hander through here, it's very easy to lose the car. I think we've seen the driver in the last lobby make that mistake. Then into this newly configured right-hander, once again, very easy to get wrong, very easy to kind of just forget about the angle of the corner these days and just completely misjudge it, but very nicely done from the Haas driver so far. So he's on for a pretty solid lap and he's keeping it valid, and I think that's probably the most important thing this early on in the session. You're not going to set your PB in your first lap, just get a valid lap, and I think that is what Oscar is going for here. And as I say that, he nearly invalidated it, but just on the edge there, definitely running a very tight line, but I think that is what you need to get a good lap around here. Coming into turn 11 now, 4th gear, using every bit of track he can there, using that curb as well on the exit, and it didn't affect his exit too much as well there, so that's what you want to see. 6th gear through there, a little bit different compared to what we've seen in that last lobby, and then 3rd gear through there, up to 4th early on, and then into that right-hander for one final corner. Nicely done there from Oscar, and I'm sure he'll be pretty happy with that lap as he comes across line. It's a 1 minute 17.1, very solid banker indeed.
Solid banker indeed, but we saw people in deep into the 16s. Here's one. Benzer comes across the line despite really messing up his tyres earlier on in the session. Snipes, though, one of the drivers that we're keeping a very firm eye on, down the order. 17.4 at the moment for him, as we keep an eye out on TAF. Rudy, as he comes across the line, goes 2nd fastest with the 16.9. Ryder Dahl comes across the line with that 17.1, as we have one of the SLR drivers, I believe that's Race Coaster, going slowest of anyone so far with the 17.401, only 1,000th of a second slower than Snipes, as SLR's Ugwen decides to come straight into the pit lane and decides not to have a go on that particular occasion. As we're just seeing Thomas, 19.0, so clearly made a mistake somewhere, and he's having another go straight out the blocks.
Yeah, not ideal from him, not the best start to the lobby for him, and Chicken Rosary as well. His teammate, he's not managed to set a lap either. He invalidated that run, so yeah, not ideal for those two boys so far, but plenty of time left, and yep, Thomas as well. Another invalidation, so yeah, couple minutes to forget for these Mercedes boys, but yeah, plenty of time to try and regroup and go again.
So lobby 2 immediately showing out the blocks that they've got similar pace to that of lobby 1. The difference is, of course, is that we're in a similar... Actually, we're pretty much the same position, aren't we? The top 2 were in the 16s, while everyone else was in the 17s, but don't ever discredit anyone in this grid, because we saw people all the way down at the back end up getting into the top 5 within a tenth of pole position. So anything could happen, and it usually does in WORLD, and that's the typical notation you'd have to say on that one. We'll head over then to the team factory, or factory team rather, or the team of the factory. Black Box himself currently racing in the McLaren as he's now going around in the first sector himself on an outlap at the moment. A little bit of a different strategy to everyone. He wants to go out of sync with everyone. You know, is there any benefit actually as a driver yourself, Cal? You know, is there any benefit to being out of sync with everyone else in an event like this?
I've never really done something like this, but I think personally when you league race and things like that, you don't really, I'm not a fan of it. You know, it's a bit annoying sometimes. I think we might see here for Black Box, if he's starting a lap, he might be coming by drivers on in laps or out laps, and then they're trying to get out of the way, and that does put you off. You know, it doesn't matter how good a driver you are, if you've got drivers slowing in your right or your left or wherever, that does put you off even just that little bit of a percent. If it's 99.9% because there's a driver on your right that's put you off that one, then that makes a difference. That adds up, and I think it's a strange one why he's going for that, but also it's each to your own, and if that's what he finds best, then that's absolutely what he should go for. But I think another reason, I'm not too sure if slipstreams are allowed, but by the looks of his McLaren teammate coming out perfectly in front of him, possibly that could be an idea as well. However, I'm not too sure if slipstream is 100% legal in this event.
We'll have to see anyway, as Talent Factory will be setting and then an initial lap time with Black Box as he's now just going around turn 1 as one of the cars immediately diverts off of the track, and it looks like actually that Rudy wasn't going to give him the tow going into turn number 3 as he's going to hit that apex absolutely perfectly, as we'll see him now chuck the car through into turn 4, through into turn 5. Want to go into not too wide because otherwise you will track extend, and that will cause a problem as he'll head through now the newly refurbished turn 6. Obviously a nice smoother corner, which is more suitable to these cars, that's for certain, as he's now heading down the straight, not straight here in Australia. The number 74 looking to try and get into the blocks, of course, as it stands at the moment. Hasn't even set a lap time, falling out of sync with everyone else. SLR Ogwen also on a lap, must be said. I believe that he's going through turn 3 at the moment, as with the DRS open now. Of course, this is now a deeper corner, so the driver will be looking to brake as late as he possibly can, as wide as he possibly can, try and avoid the curb if he can, and he's done exactly that, actually, as he'll then go around here. And it's actually, to be fair to him, Cal, I'm sure you'll agree, been a fairly clean run, as he'll now go across into the penultimate corner and then into the final corner here in Melbourne, as he'll just keep it nice and tidy, and across the line he will go to set his initial lap time of a 1 minute 16.9, 4 thousandths of a second behind his teammate, and that is Team Factory immediately flexing some muscle.
Joe, it's a fantastic lap, and I don't know how well the stream picks it up, but Joe, Black Box got pretty badly held up into turn 1. It wasn't in terms he had to slow down, but as he went into turn 1, I think it was possibly maybe Oscar who was on the apex and just completely flung his car off into the grass and went, oh no, there's someone behind me. And his first sector was 2/10 off the pace, so yeah, I think he's done a fantastic job there to manage to get into the 16s there, but another man done a fantastic job there, is that Ogwin. I think if I'm pronouncing that one right, 16.889, he goes quickest of the time so far, and SLR will be absolutely buzzing with that lap time, and that's a great way to start your session.
Yeah, I'll be hoping that the teammate though, Race Roller 22, will be able to improve on that one if he can. It's been a fairly smooth first sector at the moment, not a little bit up actually, 0.184 seconds up in that first sector, looking fairly sharp at the moment from that team there, as the Talent Factory looking very sharp. The question is can Race Roller try and beat them as he heads through into what is turn 10, turn 11. And I tell you what, a lot of curb taken, and very, very well taken indeed actually from the SLR crew, as he then heads into the corner, brake around about 40 metres before the corner, and he has gone very late into the corner. But I must say, despite being later on the brakes, he's been very clean actually. Has Race Roller, as Team Factory have gone now faster, Talent Factory have gone even faster with the 16.848. And then here comes the Red Bull team, SLR looking to try and get somewhere near his teammate here if he can, and goes only P6 with a 16.9. And I say, you know what, 16.9 isn't deserving of P6, but it's just the epitome of how close this sort of lobbies have been so far. He is monumentally close to pole, as then the fan favourite comes across the line, Carsey, with a 16.838, as they are going to be very happy indeed, will the Bunga Racing team.
Yeah, Joe, very quick times coming in this lobby already. You've got a lot of the grid in the 16th and with still 8 minutes to go. I think this lobby could be a little bit quicker than the one that we just seen. When you look at it in the face of things, you've got a 17 flat from Meatborough, and that's P9 in this lobby, so really impressive stuff. I hate to be the breaker of bad news, but the two Mercedes boys, they're not looking great, are they? A little bit off the pace. That 19 flat's not been improved by Thomas, and once again Chicken Rosary is still not managed to set a valid lap. So yeah, things aren't looking too good for these two Mercedes boys, but yeah, it's definitely a 10 out of 10 from the effort from me.
Yeah, struggling at the moment to team drivers. They're trying to get themselves on the board if they can at the moment. The 19.0 is only 1 second off the default lap time that you get, and then Chicken Rosary will be getting the 1 minute 20 that you get as it stands, because he still hasn't set a lap time, as it looks like one of the Mercedes has gone for a spin actually in the second sector, as actually Meatball is coming in. He's not going to complete that lap on this particular occasion, as will Snipes, and that's the biggest surprise out of them all so far, is that Snipes is all the way down in P10 at the moment. But again, 17.0, and if you take a look in the comparison with the leader, everybody is within a quarter of a second, and you know, finding that 1/10 could send you up 5 or 6 positions. But remember, of course, it's not all about the positions on this particular occasion, it is about the time set. But the precedent here is that if you're 0.2 seconds down on the fastest lap time, that could make or break your qualifying really in for this event.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every little helps, as Tesco would say. So it's definitely applies tonight, as well as I'm assuming you're on board with Chicken Rosary there. Is definitely not having a good time with things, and yeah, unsurprisingly, he is off into the pit lane. So, Jesus, I'm not too sure if damage is on, but if it's off, I think it's definitely done him a solid there as he's managed to keep on going. I think damage must be off by the looks of things, but oh, that is not ideal indeed there. But yeah, Mercedes boys need to get a grip if they want to try and see any sort of chance of qualifying. You're looking really just over 2 seconds. Thomas needs to improve, and well, Chicken Rosary just needs to set a lap time. So yeah, at least it can't get any worse for those two, but they get 6 minutes to try and get a valid lap in the board at least.
Oh, the Christmas pudding helmet still on QRT Benzos. He's actually hoping to send a very, very early Christmas for QRT at the moment. Team QRT looking fairly sharp actually with Benzer at the moment, but of course they've got the secret weapon in Snipes, who I'm sure will be able to find at least a 10th and a half, maybe 2 for the PlayStation team, as he's now heading into turn number 4, I believe, turn 3, pardon, sorry, into turn number 4, and of course he's now got a Ferrari, I believe, just in front of him, and I'm not sure which one it is, but he'll be hoping that he'll get out of the way and not giving him too much of a dirty air problem, though of course it is very limited with these new generation of Formula 1 cars. I believe actually it's Meatball at the moment who's currently in the way. He's actually just handed that position over to Benzer to have a go on this particular occasion, and just a little bit over a 10th up in the first sector as he's now heading into the second, and we'll see how aggressive the PlayStation driver will take to this inside. And again, look how much curb is being taken between the pair, and easily the car is able to handle it as he's now heading down into the third sector. Second sector looking fairly promising, though, albeit he's actually down by a little bit over half a 10th, and that is him in the wall, and that is that particular run over and done with.
Yep, that's a shame. Just looking, Meatborough as well, unfortunately. Tough stuff for him as well. Just try to see if we get any drivers coming to the end of their lap. I'm not too sure if there is. Maybe I'm missing something. I think we've maybe got... No, I'm not too sure. I'll pass it over to you because I can't find anyone.
Well, one thing I will tell you is that QRT Snipes was on a lap just a moment ago. It was invalid, so he must have track extended maybe by a small margin, but he was 3.5 tenths up on his lap, which would have put him deep into pole position. And he's invalidated again, has Snipes, and he's got the pace. He just does not have the rhythm of this circuit at the moment, and that could see the secret weapon potentially cause QRT some problems and some headaches through this qualifying session, as we're just keeping an eye and see who was around the board at the moment, as we've got Racer Roller not on a lap at the moment. ETA Oscar has got an invalid lap. Blackbox has just finished a lap and he's a 10th and a half down. And here's Ogwin actually for the SLR. SLR looking fairly sharp actually in this, and they're looking even sharper. We have our first 16.7 on the board as Ogwin showing some serious pace at the moment for Summit League.
Yeah, certainly. As another man showing some serious pace is Ruddy, actually, as he comes across the line, 16.6. He will now go quickest. I'm just looking as well at Carsley at the moment. He's looking to try and improve. The fan favourite. We see the support in the chat for him. And can he deliver now? It sees he coming into this final sector. It was just marginally up on his time as he absolutely sends it there into turn 11 now through the right hand of the turn 12. Absolutely sending it 5th here. Slightly wide, a little bit of understeer. And that's an invalidation, unfortunately. Just a little bit too much there from Carsley. but he's got time to go again and try and improve on that lap time.
Yeah, straight into the pits, get onto a new set of soft tyres and some new boots, and hopefully he will be able to fly high, Will Carsey, for the Bunga Racing team, and they'll be hoping his teammate can improve as well. Actually, he's looking fairly sharp on his last attempt. He ended up going a 10th up. Unfortunately, it was an invalid lap on that particular occasion. The question is he going again? We'll see as he comes around the next corner, looking a little bit slow out the corner, so I'm wondering actually if he's down a slower lap, and he is. He's 5/10 down on that particular occasion. So we'll take a very, very quick overview with 3 minutes to go in this session, and immediately out the blocks, nobody looking that consistent, except unfortunately for the team down in 11th and 12th, the Mercedes of the drive team. Unfortunately, they're consistently poor, you'd have to say, with that 19.0 and 1 minute 20. They really need to get their A game on, and they've got one attempt left if they want to try and qualify for the WOR Legacy Division. As we just keep an eye out on Meatball, is the last driver out on track before all the drivers come into the pits, get a new set of boots on, and have another go at this one, as actually Race Roller wants to get out there straight away, and he's falling out of sync with everyone else, but he wants to have a couple of attempts at this by the looks of things.
Yeah, you're probably right with that one. It looks bad in him, I think, when you're P8 and your teammate's P2, but in terms of lap time, it's just over 2 tenths between Ogween in second and Race Roller in P8, but it just shows you it is such fine margins. I've never really seen anything like it. And especially on a track like this, so much time can be won and lost. But Joe, every one of these drivers so far have been absolutely on it, and they've extracted every little bit of pace they can. And 2 minutes left. I think we've still got to see a lot of improvement. No, I think we could possibly maybe see a 0.5 this session from one of these drivers, and I think we can see a hell of a lot more down in the 0.7s and 0.8s as well.
Yeah, just keeping an eye out Race Roller. Then, of course, he'll be the first person to set the lap times on this final occasion. ET8 are also out at the moment, and both of their drivers left quite early as well. Oscar and Ryder Dahl will be looking to try and improve as well. They're both in the 1 minute 16.9s as well, to be fair. But, you know, again, try to avoid the point, you know, the position tally on the left. It's all about the times, and in fairness, the drivers that I think are probably going to be the happiest out of all of them will probably end up being the likes of SLR, probably BRT at the moment as well, but I think definitely TF through the Talent Factory are going to be certainly happy at the moment, with Rudy setting, I think, the fastest lap of anyone at all, to say the least. We'll see how this Red Bull does then anyway for the SLR team, and he immediately invalidates turn 1, and he made a good call in fairness to go out early, but he's got probably about 4 seconds available to him to get around and have another go, so this is going to be one hell of a push for Race Roller.
Yeah, not ideal. It's definitely not a way you want to prepare for a lap either, remember, so he's put himself in a pretty tricky position by doing that, but, you know, it's not a bad place to be in. Just gave him time to go again, and then, Race Roller will be looking to try and improve on that 19.9 that next lap around.
Yeah, good stuff here. Keep an eye out on Oscar as he's now heading into the first section. Actually gone fastest in the first sector of anyone so far. He's flying out there at the moment is the Haas for ET8 as he's now heading down the straight, not straight, in sector 2. And of course he's got his teammate just coming in behind, so Ryder Dahl will be hoping to at least find at least another 10th or so. And that half a 10th is massive in characteristics of this. He's down a 10th and a half, and that's a big spin for ET8's Oscar. And that is it, over and done with for him. His teammate, on the other hand, looking very sharp indeed as he keeps the car in one straight line, and he'll be looking to try and at least get into the 16.8s for his team as well and give them a good shot at trying to get into the Legacy Division. He hits that right-hander and then heads into the left-hander, and then it will be the right-hander to end it here. And Ryder Dahl looking to try and improve off of the 16.9 if he can. The checkered flag is out. We're not expecting any more laps now, any new laps to be started anyway. Ryder Dahl comes across the line, and there it is. There's the 16.8 they're looking for, and ET8 have got a driver into the top 5. Benzer's not improving at the moment with an invalid lap at turn 11, as we've got TF Blackbox looking fairly sharp. I believe we've got one of the Aston Martins coming across the line. I believe that might be Snipes, actually, who comes across the line, and he cannot improve into the 17.0s. He stays on this particular occasion. Blackbox will be looking to try and improve for the Talent Factory. Will he be able to match his teammates? He won't on this occasion, but he'll go third, and that is an astonishing effort from the Talent Factory.
Yeah, it certainly is. SLR Ogween won't be able to improve in his lap time. I think it can possibly maybe Ruddy. Now he's already in P1, but can he improve? And it looks like he absolutely can. A 16.619 is a new benchmark for the rest of this bid. Very, very impressive stuff. And then now it is Race Roller in P9. He's went to go again. He took that gamble going out early, and so far it's paying off. It's a valid lap, and it is an improvement now coming through this final sector. Through turn 12 he goes. It's now just turn 13 and 14 to navigate into the penultimate corner. He goes third up into fourth gear early, trying to open this final corner, trying to get get the best exit possible, and there you have it. It's done very, very nicely, and all it is now is foot flat to the floor. He comes across the line. It's a 16.856, and that puts him in P5.
Well, Talent Factory and certainly SLR are going to be the happiest out of all of them in this lobby. Fair play to Carsi, though. Good effort indeed for Bunga Racing. And, of course, I think with his teammate in touching distance as well, they may be in good stead. What's to say, though, it's been a really, really interesting second lobby here. Here are then the results of the second qualifying lobby, and the team for the Talent Factory are going to be incredibly happy with their performance. A 16-6 and a 16-7 around here is putting them well within touching distance of qualifying. With SLR are going to be so happy with Race Roller and Ogwen managing to get us into the top 5. Carsey also in the top 5 as well for Bunga Racing Team. Ryder Dahl with ETA Oscar looking very sharp as well with the 8 and 16-9 as well. And fair play as well to QRT Benza beating his teammate. But Snipes, the shock of this lobby, down the order with that 17-0. Unfortunate stuff though for the Drive team. They are well down the field with an 18-2 and an 18-3. Good efforts indeed as we head through to lobby 3, Callum. And I tell you what an interesting set of events we're going to have ahead here, because with that lobby now done and dusted, we move over to lobby number 3, and we have got False Group Esports joining us. We have got the Future Racing Team. We've got Alien Motorsport with us. We've got FVR, and we've also got AERT coming up for the third lobby of this qualifying session. What a great second lobby that was, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it just raised that bar a little bit higher as well for these next teams, because I just think they were a little bit more on it. I think we've seen a lot more 16s, and obviously I think we've had our quickest time of qualifying as well there. So a very interesting lobby. I think it's only going to get better as we come into lobby 3. Some very interesting names, some pretty big teams in lobby 3. So yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting.
Certainly. So we've got a little bit of a time before we get on with the third lobby as the drivers are all getting themselves ready and raring to go here. Big names in this one, though. Of course, AMS coming back after what has been such a little bit of a dip in form over the last few seasons. So they'll be hoping that they can get themselves in touching distance. But with those 16-8s and 16-9s, they are going to be keeping their fingers crossed that their drivers are going to be pulling something out of the bag alongside Future Racing as well. Fantastic team as well, but they are a little bit down the order as well. False Group similarly, and then of course AERT and FVR also trying to get in there as well. But a lot of history between these drivers and between these teams, that's for certain, and I'm sure that will carry them through.
Yep, absolutely. I think it gives a lot bit of pressure for these guys when you're driving for a bigger team or a team with a bit more history. There's a level of expectation sometimes to get through events like this, but I think nothing's a given. Even the biggest teams here tonight are probably not too sure if they're going to make it. It's just been that close and we've seen it. I think if you've got a driver tonight that's maybe 1 or 2 tenths off what they normally do, that's probably not going to be good enough. There's just so many good teams here tonight, and I just think that's what makes it all the more interesting.
Yeah, fingers crossed there'll be an invite to Lobby 3 at some point, because I would like to actually see what happens, and I'm sure you guys would as well. All 162 of you who are all waiting for the third lobby here. Leave us a note in the comments who you think your favourite is for this third lobby here. Certainly going to be a bit of a mixed bag, that is for certain, as we've got Shazoo Ali screaming Bobberts in the chat, as Bobberts just entering in there into the chat as well. Good evening to yourself, sir. Nice to see you, as we've got plenty of support here for the False Group Esports team. I think another fan favourite like Carsi, you know?
Yeah, it sounds like it. Definitely a couple of guys shout out the support for them. So yeah, looking forward to see what those guys can do. As we mentioned, pretty competitive grid. They're going to have to be on it. I think that probably goes for everyone tonight. So yeah, I'll be intriguing to see what they can do.
Yeah, certainly going to be an interesting one, and that one. So, an interesting situation apparently occurring in this one here, as I've got World Online Racing in the chat saying TF10 and WOR have one driver in lobby 3 after being blocked in lobby 1. I'm not sure where that one, because I don't believe TF10 and WOR are in lobby 3, are they? I mean, unless I'm completely mistaken, but well, I'm sure they'll get a bit of an understanding on that one, unless I'm just completely misunderstanding the text that I am receiving on this particular occasion. So just waiting again for another invite to lobby number 3. So in the meantime, we'll continue on with the droning noise of my voice. Cal, we continue on. Actually, it gives us a brief overview to very quickly talk about last season and the performance of these teams, actually. So I think probably the most prominent of them all were probably FGE and FRT, especially on the Xbox platform. These guys were prominent in certain aspects, to say the least, and FRT absolutely showed some premise to try and improve on where they were over the last few seasons, and of course they were at one point competing with the likes of WOR esports themselves, but they will be looking to try and bounce back after what has been a fairly mediocre season.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I don't think there's any better place to do it than in World. So yeah, I definitely agree with your statements there, and I think what's interesting, I'm just going to go back to what you mentioned there about TF10 and WOR. So they've got one driver competing in this next lobby we're about to go on to, and they will be able to participate in every single round run. So there's no limit on how many runs they can do in this next session. So obviously they've been blocked in the first lobby they participated in, but it's a big advantage now. They can go again. Whatever driver is taking part for that team is a big advantage. If they don't maybe get the run they wanted in that last lobby, it's like a lifeline now for them. They can really go at it now and see if they can try and get a better lap time for their team.
Well, we'll be keeping our fingers crossed that we will have an invite to some kind of lobby. I do hope we'll be able to bring you Lobby 3, because I think this is going to be a very interesting one, especially with the likes, actually, if we go back to AMS. At one point, a prominent sort of midfield team, really, weren't they, the AMS crew? They were really flying at one point. I think it was F1 2018, I think it was, when we really started to see them grow. And of course, they sort of fell off the cliff a little bit, and we didn't really see much from them. So, opportunity for these guys to grow. And I think a lot of teams want to take that opportunity to sort of learn and grow themselves, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And remember, AMS this time last season qualified for World and then pulled out very early on. So they know what they've got. They've got the talent, they've got the pace, and I think it's just about maybe just putting it all together now. I think, as you mentioned, I think they were pretty big back in maybe that 2018 time, but they've always been there. They've always been a prominent name. I think they're big on Forza as well, so they're no slouches, AMS. So yeah, look forward to seeing what they can do. And now, if anyone was wondering, we've now got Markados from TF10 in this lobby 3, so maybe that was one of the drivers that got blocked. So yeah, that's an interesting one. So he is one of the guys getting to go again.
Right. Okay. So now I understand what was asked here. So TF10 and WOR are basically fielding another driver in lobby 3 after the stewards conducted an investigation and said that their laps were blocked. So therefore they're getting an opportunity again to have another go in this one. So it won't just be these 5. We've got one driver from TF10 over on PlayStation and one from WOR Esports on Xbox who will also be taking part in this particular event. And that, excuse me, that is a very interesting scenario, and gives, actually, especially after lobby 1 and how intense it was, a real opportunity for some drivers to have a go at this.
Yeah, certainly does. It's very interesting, and I'm sure there'll be a couple of head scratches from other people, from other teams. But you know what, that's what it's all about. It's never an easy decision making those types of calls. So yeah, certainly going to be an interesting one. I'm not too sure what Markados especially set in that last lobby, but it'd be good to know, see if he does improve, because I think that would be making for some good controversy, put it that way. So yeah, it should be pretty interesting. I'm trying to see if I can find it now. Yeah, so Markados set a 16.915 in that last lobby, and it was WR Nemia who's also participating for WR, but he set a pretty better lap time. I think he set a 16.8. So 16.8, 16.9 from the two of them respectively. So a little bit of improvement, I'm sure, will be there, and they've definitely got a second lifeline to go out there and try and do it.
So looking forward to seeing what we've got coming up. We're still waiting, I think, unfortunately, for an invite. No, in fact, I think we've just had invites dropped out, and just unfortunately, I did not see them. Can we see that one? So I think that was, in fact, it was only 30 seconds ago anyway. So we will be getting on with the next lobby in just a short moment. And of course, the drivers that were unfortunately unavailable, that got blocked rather, in lobby 1, will be fielded with TF10 and WOR. So TF10 Markados makes a return in lobby 3, represented TF10, and of course WOR Neymar will be replaced, will be in the Aston Martin for this occasion for WOR, as they will have another go at this particular session. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what we've got coming up, as these drivers are all ready and I think raring to go. Early indications, though, we've got, I think, a few fan favourites in here and a few drivers here I think that people certainly are going to know. People such as Harv, people such as Brugeminx, and so on. So it's going to be an interesting one, this.
Yeah, it certainly will be. I'm looking forward to see what Harv can do. I think that's a good name. Down there around about tier three the last couple of seasons, but he made a couple of appearances near the end of that world season there, and he certainly held his own. So it's good to see he's been given the call up. I'm looking forward to see what he can do, because this is a big stage for him, and a lot of pressure riding on him as well. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what Harv can do tonight.
We'll see as the drivers all getting themselves ready for this particular race, as we have a very, very brief conversation about the PlayStation guys as well, FER and AERT racing in this particular session. A really good opportunity for those drivers, of course, because you've got some really, really big talent actually racing over there as well, actually, because I think FER especially are a team. In fact, pardon me, I think FER actually are an Xbox team, aren't they? Actually, now just correct myself on that particular one. I'll have to just fully confirm that, because now even I've got question marks rising above my head. But either way, these teams are certainly looking forward to this one, because they have got an opportunity to race with some serious talent actually in FGE, AMS, and of course over in the future racing team. So, where are they going to line up? Do you expect we're going to see some more 16s?
I think so. I think we're going to start to see a lot more 16s. I think, a rough guess, I think you're going to be wanting to be setting below probably point 0.8s. If you want to see a team qualify on average, you're wanting both drivers to set point 0.8s roughly, and I think that is going to be what you want to be seeing. But I think that's a pretty rough estimate. We've obviously not got the guaranteed times, but yeah, I think if you're not in the 16s, you're probably not going to qualify, and I think that is as blunt as I can put it.
Okay, so I believe the drivers all are very, very keen to get going with this one here. I'm sure all the viewers out there will be very keen to try and keep this one going, because we're going to be in for a very, very interesting set of events here, of course. Now, obviously, the first two lobbies have suggested that we have had a serious, sort of incredible amount of talent, actually, in that second lobby especially. So close in the end, and I think every 10th, every 100th is going to count here, isn't it, Cal? Because we're going to be in a situation where someone is going to finish in 11th and there may only be 100th down.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree. Other than probably, I don't want to throw any shade, but I'm going to do it anyway. Other than probably the two Mercedes drivers in that last lobby, everyone else has been on the pace. I mean, absolutely on it. 2 3 tenths off it is probably the most we've seen, excluding those two guys in the last lobby. So it's so impressive to see when you've got so many teams entering as well. It's not like we've only got 13, 14 teams. It's 24 teams we've got trying to qualify for this. That is a huge amount, and for all of them to be so competitive and so on the pace, it is a real hats off to every single one of them. So you're absolutely right. Every tenth, every millisecond absolutely matters, and I think we'll probably see that even more so coming into these last few lobbies when we have a little bit of a rough idea where everyone is.
Yeah, I'm just having a very quick look, if you don't mind, and I'm having a look at the moment, and it seems as if we are having a little bit of a discussion amongst the managers of the teams at the moment, as we've got people from Novus not particularly happy with some teams getting 8 laps while some others getting 4. It it seems to me as if certain teams are not particularly happy with extra runs being given, which, to be fair, is obviously a question that I think some teams are going to want to raise. But at the end of the day, if they agree to the rules are there to be followed. So I'm sure all of the teams are going to be happy with that particular one, as I'm sure Luke is almost, I think, possibly having a hemorrhage at this point by the looks of things. So fair play to him, as he's absolutely trying his hardest to manage that one, as the lobby 3 is very keen to get going. So we've got the lobby all ready and raring to go. The drivers will be very keen to get out here, as I think we're starting to see the first initial ready ups now begin finally to get on with the third lobby, none other than 7 minutes later than anticipated. But Cal, very briefly, very, very close here, but now we're going to be heading in. What times are the drivers going to be looking for to feel comfortable? We're going to be talking 16.8, 16.9 here, aren't we?
Yep, you're absolutely right. I think you're probably going to be seeing I'm more on the 8s side of it. I think 9s is probably marginally just out if you're wanting to trying to be through. So these guys really point 8 points, possibly 7s. And I think then you could maybe start to feel a little bit better about it. But realistically, you're going to have to be well within those 16s. And I'm intrigued to see how quick they can get as well. I think we've seen a 0.6 as the fastest, maybe a 0.5. But let's see if we can get a 0.4, maybe even a 0.3. I think I seen Matthew earlier on put a 0.2 on Twitter. Could we even get as far down as that? Maybe we could.
I'm just keeping an eye out on Boberts, actually. I think you're having a conversation with him in the chat at the moment, saying that you're going to be missing his 15 seconds of penalties on a Tuesday night. And you know what? I must agree with that one as well. It's a massive disappointment, Boberts, and I do wish you well, though, mate, and we hope that we cross paths again soon. Really nice guy as well as Boberts. So be interesting to see where you come about in the community as we finally get on with lobby number 3. And, of course, we've got a few drivers all there ready and raring to go as we now head over to the race, and immediately coming out of the blocks is suggesting straight away that FER are looking like they're ready, well, already preparing to get straight out there. AMS may also be doing so as well. Now, of course, keep an eye out on the other drivers in the field as well. You may have noticed, like I said, WOR are fielding another driver out there, as well as I believe it was one of the TF10, I believe it was Markados, who will be having another go in this lobby session, because apparently they were blocked in lobby 1, so they will be given an opportunity to have another go on that particular session. So that is one to keep an eye out on. I'm sure very controversial in the manager's chat as well. It's absolutely blowing up at the moment. I'm going to have to mute that. We'll see what happens anyway, but Markados looking to try and prove the critics wrong, as he's immediately set out on the Williams, and he's going to be the first to set a lap, he says.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to sidetrack slightly in the WR main chat. Someone's already put out an average graphic of the time set by everyone so far, which I think is pretty crazy that someone's been sitting and watching it and calculating it all up. It certainly saved Luke a job, that's for sure. But I think it makes it interesting as well, though, because these guys probably know what they're going to set at the moment. I wouldn't want to say it on stream, I don't want to ruin the spectacle of it all. But I think it just makes it a little bit more interesting. These guys know what they're going to be set. They know what the rough time they need to try and get is. And I think I'm not too sure if that's an advantage or not. I'm not too sure if I'm looking at it a bit too simplistically, but I'm not too sure if it's a good thing knowing what you're meant to set instead of just going out there with a blank mindset. But you never know, and I think it'll be intriguing to see if we do see drivers a little bit more careful than you normally would.
Yeah, we'll just keeping an eye out then on Markados, who's going to be thanking his lucky stars he's been given this opportunity to have a go at this one here as we get on with the lobby. And here he comes then around the final corner, and the Williams will be the first one to set a lap here, of course representing TF10 on his second visit in this qualifying session. Again, once because he was blocked in lobby 1, he'll have another go in lobby 3, and he chucks it into turn 1, and that car is looking very stable indeed.
Yeah, certainly is. He's got to practice, that's why he's done an extra 16 minutes with a lot of these guys, so he's definitely probably a little bit less rusty. I think maybe he could be a little bit tense or nervous going into an event like this, but that's maybe gone now. He's already had that one go, and I think it could be a big advantage here for Markados, but Joe, he still has to get the lap time in, that's for sure. 26.618 is his first sector 10 there, but an invalidation there on the exit isn't going to do him any favours. And he might be getting another lobby, but you have to set a valid lap time, that's for sure. And I'm not too sure how it works if he doesn't improve, if it goes back to his last lap time, or I'm not too sure if it resets completely. I'm not too sure. I will need to ask Luke on that one, but no matter what, he still needs to set a lap time.
I can't expect he'll be allowed into lobby 4 if he messes up, because that'll be on his own accord. He's been given the opportunity to have a go, and he'll be wanting to do the best he can, as we're just on board at the moment with the Alien Motorsports Ronan in the Red Bull, as he keeps it nice and tidy in the third sector. And he'll want to keep it sharp if he can here, because this is where it's going to be almost crucial at the moment here, as he chucks it into the left-hander now and into the right, and it looks to me as if he's missed his apex ever so slightly, so there's at least a couple of tenths in that corner as one of the Mercedes is spun out actually. I believe that actually might have been FG Flow, as False Group Esports looking to try and get themselves on the books if they can. So Mr. Alan Toast, the first person to set the initial lap time in the Alfa Romeo. We'll keep an eye out on the AMS driver as AMS Slider Fort does a good job and puts himself into the 17.3s as Patrick Leisure comes across the line with a 17.5. AMS Ronan comes across the line with a 17.3 of his own. So fastest of anyone so far. Here comes Kian TY. As he comes across the line for FBR and manages to set the lap time of a 17.1 himself. And then we see the other FBR driver, 17.5 for him. And we'll just keep an eye out on the other driver as well, Master Squid, as he's in the third sector looking to try and improve on his lap time. And it looks to me as actually he has abandoned on this occasion. So 6 times set of the possible 12. And initially coming out of the blocks, not as fast as lobbies 1 and 2.
No, you're right. It's a little bit off the pace. Still some good lap times, but I think yeah, you're certainly right. A little bit different to what we have been used to. WR Nemia as well. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Apologies if it is wrong. But obviously him going again in this lobby hasn't managed to set a lap time just off yet. Has he had another lap time set there? I'm trying to see who that was. Was it? I'm not too sure. Someone did just set a lap time. But yeah, you're right. Lap times are looking a little bit slower. And yeah, I've been trying to see 30 minutes left. We've got loads of time for these guys to improve and try and get into those kind of mid to high 16s.
Back on board then with Markados as he's looking to try and set a lap time. Harv also out on the at the moment. He's in the Alpine in lobby 3. That is FRT in the Future Racing team, looking to try and get on the books themselves at the moment, as Brood also out on there as well, but also on an out lap as it stands. So we've got 6 times set, of course, still waiting on an improvement from Master Squid Racing for AERL. At the moment they are well down the field with that 1:38. I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, he will be defaulted to 1 minute 20 with that lap time, because of course the lowest lap time you can get if you just don't get a lap time is 1 minute 20, so I think it'd be a bit unfair to get a lap time 18 seconds slower if that is what happens. Either way, Harv is going through now into turns 10 and 11. Interesting scenario though, of course, for the team in FRT, setting up some drivers I certainly want to try and set an example for Future Racing, of course, after the turmoil that happened with the Future Esports brand, which have I think recently actually folded, if I'm correct, and that one I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I heard that somewhere. They of course want to try and set the precedent that they are the team, they are the future, and Harv will be the first person to try and set that lap for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting one, the lap time set just yet, but Harv, he's flying the flag for them. His teammate is just behind him as well. I'm not going to try and pronounce that one, no. I'll just call him Alpine number 2 for the rest of this lobby, just save myself a bit of embarrassment there. But we'll stick on board with Harv now, coming through the first sector, turn 3. It is their 4th gear for him there, nice and smoothly done at the left hand of the turn 5, making sure he doesn't run wide there. No invalidation, that would definitely not help him out. A bit of a hit at the curb there, and that just sent his car flying. And validation, unfortunately for Harv, but a bit of a silly one. You have to admit, it's a flat-out corner. It's, you know, you're not really be pushing there, and Harv, he'll be kicking himself there because it's not a place you want to get an invalidation. And yeah, he'll be annoyed with that outcome there.
So Brood Alpine number 2 is doing a really good job, in fairness. But I'm just keeping an eye on actually going through. I don't know whether that was just a glitch or whether that was, a visual glitch, or whether that was an actual thing, but seems to me as if he's running the car very low down, because that skid plate was absolutely scraping across the bottom of the ground heading through turn number 3. Never mind down the straights here where we expect the cars to be at the lowest. So quite a low car on, I think, and a low setup. So he's expecting this will be a low downforce situation here as Markados comes across the line, gets into the 16.9s, and of course that will be TF10 setting a lap time alongside their other teammate from lobby 1. Keep an eye out on Brujaminix. Alpine 2, we'll go with that. I agree with you on this one, Cal. He comes then down into the final corner and across the start finishing line. The Alpine will set the lap time 1 minute 18.2. It's well down the field of lobbies 1 and 2 at the moment.
Yep, well off the pace, unfortunately, for him. So yeah, he's not ideal there. I've got someone in the chat saying if they can get a full onboard lap with Keen and YT, so we'll give him that, or TY I should say, sorry. So we'll stick on board with the Ferrari then coming through turn 1. Let's see what he can do. He's currently P2, 17.1 to his name. It looks good in this lobby, but on the grand scheme of things, you're probably wanting a couple more tenths out of that lap time. So let's just see what he can do coming through turn 3. 4th gear, a bit of a moment there. And the exit a little bit too hasty, you could probably say, on that throttle, but he's kept his fight another day coming through that right-hander. Flat out, he keeps it validated, coming into this newly configured right-hander once again. He's keeping it on the track, and he's definitely gave it a little bit more beans through there that time, so it's definitely doing the favour for the Ferrari man. Now, let's just see what he is. As you will see in the top right-hand corner, we'll get to see that little sector split, see how much he's maybe up or down on this lap time. He comes across the sector split now. He's just 200s up, so not a lot in it there, and a big miss of the apex, and then he's cut that corner there, but currently it's still a bad lap time, but probably not the best way you'd want to do that section of the track. Coming into turn 11 now, braking around about that 50-metre board. 4th gear there, missing that big red curb on the inside. You don't want to go anywhere near that, but he's using every bit of curb on the outside as well, making sure he uses every bit of track possible, and it's been a decent little lap from Keen so far as he comes through the penultimate corner. 4th gear up into 5th early, making sure to try and minimise that wheel spin as he coming through that final corner. He's feathering the throttle there, his foot back to the floor, and he comes across the line. Now, what lap time can it be for the Ferrari? It's a 16.961, and it's fastest so far.
Yeah, 16.9 is what they're really looking for if you want to try and compete with those from Lobby 1 and Lobby 2. Actually beating TF10's Marcados from Lobby 1, actually. So if they can... It's actually a good benchmark having Marcados in here, actually, for the teams that you may, you know, no disrespect, may describe as potentially midfield at this particular occasion with the 16.3s. But... you know, if they want to qualify for the Legacy Division, they've got to be aiming for into the 16s at the moment, and so far the fastest of those outside of the 16s is unfortunately nearly 4/10 down, in fact exactly 4/10 down with AMS's Ronan. But fair play to AMS though, the fastest of those in the 17s with the 17.3 for the pair of them actually in very close proximity, as we're looking for Master Squid here. Master Squid representing the team in the Alfa Romeo, that's AERL, are looking to try and get themselves on the books above a 1 minute 38.5 as he comes across the line. Well, he certainly does. He beats both AMS drivers, but still 17.345.
Yeah, Joe, this one is a little bit of a strange one. This lobby a little bit off the pace, I think, compared to the other two, and that is no disrespect to these guys because, Joe, it's 10 times quicker than what I could ever do. But just in comparison to the two lobbies we've seen, they do look slightly off the pace. TY, I should try and say, I'm trying to say YT. TY is the quickest so far with a 9.601, and I think that'll be one of the slowest in some of the other lobbies, which really puts into comparison. But still 7 minutes left. I'm sure we'll see a lot of improvement from some of these guys, and one of these guys being Harv 234, no lap time to his name at the moment, currently in P11. Of course, to come into this final sector now, 4th gear through there on that throttle nice and carefully, just making sure he gets a lap time in. I think that's the most important thing from at this stage in the lobby. When you've not got a lap time to your name, you're definitely not going to qualify. You've at least got a chance. You can get a good lap in, at least coming through this final corner now. 5th gear, just feathering that throttle, not using as much track there, maybe could have carried a little bit more speed in hindsight, but let's see as he comes across the line now. It's a 1 minute 17.2. and that puts him in P3.
I'm going to be arguing here the case that I think that was actually quite a conservative lap from Harvey. He was not using the full track to his advantage on that particular occasion, so I think he's got a little bit more time available, but he just wanted to set something on the books, and I don't think he expected to potentially be in the top 3, so he's in a real position here. Whereas we see Marcados come across the line, so he's got a 16.968 on his board as he's now looking to have a go at this one here, as we've got Kin T if you will, for FBR currently leaving the pit lane now to have a go on this particular occasion. He might have maybe a couple of attempts on 2 sets of brand new soft tyres. Marcados looking fairly okay in the first sector. I think he's probably going to be down though by the looks of things. We'll see how he is as he comes across. In fact, no, he's up by the looks of things. He's up by just over 3/4 of a tenth, as he keeps it very, very tight to the grass and doesn't want to touch it, because of course that would really harm him going through turn 10 and turn 11. Here he comes then as he heads past the DRS detection point and the sector splits. He comes up and he's actually 0.04 of a second up as well here, and he keeps it really, really close to the curve. And I tell you what, really throwing that Williams around at the moment.
Yeah, he absolutely is. He knows that he can try and improve, and he knows that he kind of has to improve for TF10's sake. He didn't have the best of performances in that lobby one, but now with a kind of a bit of a pinch of luck, you should probably say, he's maybe got a second chance here. And as you say, he's really been on it and coming through these final corner now. 4th gear, he's really got that car to the left-hand side. He's opened up this final corner nicely on the throttle, very nice and early. And let's see now as he comes across the line, what lap can it be? I think it will be the quickest time, when it is by a good margin as well, a 16.844, and that's more like it from the Williams man.
Yeah, absolutely more like it indeed, as we're just keeping an eye on the manager's chat, as people are still arguing at the moment about all of that rule and wanted to know what's going on that particular one. Well, the rules they signed up to on that one is something that they're going to have to stick with, that's for sure, as we just keep a very firm eye on the situation in the front two, both within the 16s at the moment. So now we're starting to get into that sort of realms of what we saw at the beginning of both Lobby 1 and Lobby 2, where we have both top 2 drivers within the 16s and the rest in the 17s. But fair play though to FRT's Harv in the Alpine with that 17.2 looking very sharp indeed. The only issue, of course, is FGE Flow for the False Group Esports team, yet to set a lap time for the False Group Esports team, and actually his teammate well down the field on the 17.5 as well. WOR Nahimar, though, is the shocker of this particular section. He is another driver who's looking to set a lap for WOR, of course, after the invalidation, or rather there was a situation which meant that he ended up not able to set a proper lap time. Perhaps he was blocked as well. In that scenario, he is still yet to set a lap with 4 minutes to go, so he's under a little bit of pressure as well.
Yeah, yes. I'm not too sure how it works. If he doesn't improve this lobby, will it go back to his last lap time? Will they then take his lobby 1 account? I'm not too sure, so I think that's something they brought up. But if it is, I think it makes his life a little bit easier. But if they go off this lap time no matter what, then yeah, Nemia could be in for some real problems here. But yeah, I'm not too sure how it all works in terms of lap times.
Sorry to interrupt. I think FVR has made a very, very slight mistake here, because I was just keeping an eye on Kinty, and he's just I thought he was going to come into the pit lane, but he immediately skipped that and went straight out to have another go at this one. And I'm just taking a look. He's on a 1 lap old tyre, so it'll be 2 lap when he comes across the start finishing line. But the situation report, excuse me, is that he ended up coming around the final corner and massively spun it. And I don't know whether he intended to go into the pit lane or whether he wanted to stay out, but it was a massive spin. Nice pirouette, must say. But in that scenario, I should have really come into the pits and got a new set of boots on, but he stays out, and he might have enough time to have a lap, maybe. But yeah, interesting scenario happening over at FVR at the moment in the Ferrari, as Harv is now on an out lap as well as his teammate Brujaminix. Just Alpine 2, yeah, you're right. I'm just going to stick with that. I'm not even going to try it anymore, Cal. I must admit, it's really winding me up. Number 25, we'll go with that then instead, actually. Heads around the final corner as he wants to try and start his lap, and the only person to the 1 minute 18s of all people at the moment, as FRT really need to find some pace, and hopefully he's not going to get blocked too heavily into turn 1, and it looks like he might do, you know, and I think you have to argue straight away there. FRT were blocked potentially by one of the Ferraris.
Yeah, it's not ideal. I don't actually see it, but it does sound like it. And yeah, head scratcher for Luke once again. We might even see them in this final lobby by the way things are going. So yeah, bit of a strange one, but that's, I think, the way it goes sometimes in these qualifiers. It's things like this can happen, and it just makes it a little bit messy. So yeah, it's a shame if he was blocked there, but I think maybe the silver lining is we might see him in this final lobby now.
Yeah, situation being asked as well, that question that you've asked as well, actually. Does the drivers keep their lap time if they decide not to go here? Because Neymar has not left the pits, and he's just leaving, actually, right now as we speak. So is he looking to try and improve on his lap time, I wonder, is the question. We've got Giano 4 also on an out lap as well. Patrick Leisure's on an out lap. Slider Fort for AMS. We're coming around the final corner, and he'll be to start his lap here in the Red Bull. And this is a crucial moment here for AMS. Both very, very close in their pace here, but they need to find at least 3 or 4 tenths on this occasion if they want to have any chance of potentially getting into the mix of the qualifiers so far, because there's so many teams in the 16.8, 16.9s at the moment that certainly TF10 and FVR are going to be looking into the times, but FVRGN really needs to find at least another 6 tenths, which is a really tough ask at the moment, to say the least. A little bit of a wobble, you'd have to say, going into the turn 3, turn 4 complex there by Sliderfort, but he is a tenth and a bit up in the first sector.
Yeah, looking pretty good at the moment, and he'll be looking to try and get a good lap time, and obviously this is the last time he will get to set a lap, and it's absolutely all or nothing. The MS boys are looking pretty solid, you do have to say, though. P5 and P6 and an improvement here could possibly put them further up in this lobby, but when you look at it, a lot of times they're not as convincing. I think the positions are slightly misleading in that sense. So you're probably looking for the 16s here for these AMS guys coming into turn, I think that was turn 11, slightly deep there for Sliderfort, if I pronounce that one right, as he's coming into the penultimate corner now. 3rd gear, but it's not his 4th gear. Keeping those levers nice and low allows him to get on the power early up into 5th gear now through that final corner. Very nicely done from the Red Bull, and it's a good way to end off this session. What lap time can it be? Can it be in the 16s? It doesn't look like it. The 17.221.
Yeah, and Ronan will be looking to try and improve on that one. 17.2 puts him a thousandth down on Harv, who's yet to set more of an improved lap time. Unfortunately, validating on this particular occasion, as Ronan gets a really large wiggle on as Master Squid comes across the line. Checker flag now waving, and he's now into the 17.0. So slowly breathing down the neck of the other drivers. Here is Master Squid. Ronan comes across the line, gets into the 17.1. So at least getting that a couple of tenths faster. Sliderfort is not looking like he's going to be improving anytime soon. Harv can't improve either for FRT, as FVR's Gian retires in the pit lane. So that is his race over and done with, and suddenly FVR might be under some pressure here with that 17.5 set by Gian. Alan Toast looking to try and improve as well, as he's, I'm not going to lie, could have invalidated there, and he might have just got away with it on that particular occasion, as he's looking to try and improve as the AERL driver. Keeps it nice and tidy into the corner. A couple of bites of the cherry on this occasion. Heads through then into the final couple of corners, and that's going to be a track extension, but keeps it because he lifted off so they could keep the lap. as he then heads through into the final corner, and the Alfa Romeo AERL driver looking to try and improve where he can, as he's got 10th place in the bag with a 17.9, comes across the line and stays in 10th with a 1 minute 17.8, and I believe that will actually be it on this occasion, as we've got Kinty come across the line, and he does improve, actually gets into the 16.9s himself and does help FER's situation, but with their teammates so far down the field, I think they're going to be in trouble.
Yep, I think you probably are right. An interesting thing is with the TF10, Marcados wasn't able to improve on that final run. I think he's around about a 10th up, and unfortunately for him, just didn't manage to get it all together. And then the other end of the spectrum, WR Nemia, and his second chance doesn't get the chance to improve. So very interesting stuff from those two there, and yeah, it certainly is food for thought.
Yep, so we've got Marcados leading the way then, of course, on his second attempt, and then in the sandwich of those from Lobby 1, Nehima is at the back with no time at all now. He won't get the 1 minute 20. He will get whatever fastest lap time that he set within Lobby 1 as his lap time. And, of course, if that isn't a lap time, it will be 1 minute 20, but you get the point. Kinty in second then in the end with a 1 minute 16.9, but that is the end of the 16s with Squid 17.0, Flo 17.0. Good lap, actually, from the False Group Esports team. Ronan, Harv, Slitherfort, Ledger, GN, and Alan Toast rounding out the rest of those drivers as we now head forward into the next event. And of course the end of that event leads us now to lobby number 4, and we have a cracking set of 6 teams ahead of us here, with NVR, SDG, GTZ, NRX, TV8 and OP leading the way for this particular event. And of course Novus, I think their manager at the moment, Nath, is the one that's been probably the loudest of anyone so far here, wanting to get an understanding of the rules about people getting second runs. But Novus are now fielding their drivers, and they will be in the 4th lobby for what is going to be a very, very interesting event.
Yeah, this 4th lobby looks pretty good. I think, personally, I'm recognising most teams. Novus, of course, we know how good they can be. NRX, St. George are the kind of 3 that are standing out the most to me. Another 3 as well, without trying to be disrespectful. I'm looking forward to see what they can do, because I don't know a lot about them, and I think that makes it a hell of a more interesting, because there could be some serious dark horses from my perspective anyway. So it's pretty good to see these guys will all know what's expected of them to qualify or not. They'll know the times, they'll be watching the streams, they'll be watching what other people have been doing. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic, complete opposite to what we've seen in the first lobby. These 6 teams will know what is needed of them.
Well, I mean, the situation that happened over in Lobby 3 with Abrud Jimenix, how do you pronounce his name, for the FRT team, Future Racing Team, confirmed they will be in Lobby 4, and they will be racing for a second time after being blocked going through turn 1. I think it was quite a calamitous situation between, I believe it was FER and AERL. So, and that means FRT have got 1 driver in Lobby 4 alongside the rest of these drivers in front. But we have obviously got a very quick break before we head on into the next lobby, because I think it's going to be a fairly sort of crucial situation here with those drivers. We're now invited into the lobby, so fingers crossed we'll be able to get into this one. Immediately out the blocks, though, very, very important stuff here. We've got the return of the NRX brand, and they are absolutely going to be keeping all fingers and toes crossed here, because it is a serious, serious competition for NRX's return, and we've got some big names there as well.
Yeah, we absolutely do. Levi, Rusty, I mean, it's probably as good as you're going to get in this lobby. So looking forward to see what these guys can do. We've got St. George as well, McCabe, Sam, Jam Pancakes. We know how good the pair of them can be. A few other names as well are looking pretty familiar as they come into this lobby. So yeah, this is going to be a very good one. It might be the last one, but I think a lot can change from between now and the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward. I mean, you've been with me, haven't you, Cal, with St. George Esports. They have been one magnificent team to watch, and the familiar team of Jam Pancakes and McCabe Sam once again return for 2023 for the St. George crew. They're racing as familiar in the Haas, the white and red car, of course, so they'll be ones to watch, you'd have to say, because these guys are properly quick, despite the fact the team really don't care, really, do they, about how they present themselves. They just want to have a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, you're probably right in that one, and you do a good group of lads, a lot of them, and they've been practicing for this, they're taking this one seriously. I think last time out they missed out on qualifying for World. I think Sam McCabe, he just came back to league racing. Jam Pancakes wasn't even league racing this time last season, and it just shows you how much they've came forward as a team in the last couple of months. And I think tonight there's some real favourites to get in here. You've seen how good they were in TPF firsthand, and they really showed how much they've improved throughout the course of that season. McCabe Sam was doing it week in, week out in Tier 1 as well last year. You Jam Pancakes, he done his bit. We got to see it in Tier 2, how good he can be. So, yeah, I think St George are our real favourites to try and qualify for this event.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to seeing what they've got coming up here of the St George crew. Of course, don't discredit NRX. They are loving life at the moment, to say the least, on their rebrand. Some serious names coming over to the brand, including, of course, none other than Loveland himself, of course, a really, really big manager in the esports scene over on Xbox. So he'll be very keen to really, really present NRX in such a light that Nexus essentially are one of the big teams to seriously consider going into this season. And of course, if not this season, they've got their eyes set for next, because of course this is very much the foundation laying season for the newly refurbished Nexus team. What are we to expect, do you reckon, from them?
Do you know what? I'm not too sure. It's hard to tell, but I think you'll be looking for some good results. They're no slouches. They're not got bad drivers at all. Some very quick drivers in that roster, and I think it all starts from qualifying tonight. That's the most important thing. If they can qualify tonight, who knows where that could possibly take them.
Well, if we're going to go by last season's sort of, what's the right way to put it, sort of the form, you'd have to say, I think Levi has been unbelievably quick when I think, was he racing, pardon me, with VSR prior to this? So, if I'm right, I might be wrong on that one.
PSR, I think.
It was PSR, wasn't it? Yeah, so he took the
Yeah.
break from Paradox to come over to NRX, and in this situation, he's pairing with Rusty. Now, Levi, impeccably quick driver. Rusty, also very quick, but the consistency's been a little bit topsy-turvy here, so there's a real opportunity with the team to lay the foundations down, be the team that people are expecting from NRX. Rusty wants to be part of that. Opportunity for him here. If he can lay down those foundations and be there with the likes of Levi, NRX are going to get their season rolling like so quickly. And then, of course, in the back of that, they're going to be in the position that are going to say, right, we've laid those foundations immediately out of the blocks. Why not fight for a championship?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Levi was fantastic last year. I think he raced in World in a couple of occasions, and then we've seen him in Tier 2, and then Rusty, we know how good he can be. So we've seen his laps as well. I think a 90, as a 16.2, sorry. We've seen him set earlier on Twitter. So no pressure on him. He's set his standards pretty high, I think, and he's definitely got something to deliver up to. So yeah, there's some big names in this lobby, and yeah, it should be fireworks.
Absolutely, indeed. So the drivers all get themselves ready. Now, I believe the reason why we're on a slight delay at the moment before we get on with this one, 5 minutes as it stands so far, is because we are currently waiting at the moment for Loveland to not be a driver. We need to get him either out of the lobby or put him in spectator, because he is actually in here at the moment, as we've actually waiting as well for some other drivers, as we've actually got TF Black Box also joining as well from the, I believe that one is the... I can't remember for the life of me which team that is now. TF, which one was it now? Like, it's completely lost my mind. In Lobby 2, I believe it was. And they were flying, weren't they, the TF team, if I remember correctly. They were racing hard, were the Talent Factory. That's the one. They were racing hard, weren't they? See, did you see me digging deep to try and find where it was in my head? Talent Factory, they flew hard in this one, but apparently Black Box wasn't happy. He also got delayed as well. So he will be invited as well to have another go here for Team Talent Factory in this lobby, and he will have another go alongside the FRT driver Brood. We'll go with Brood for now. That'll be all right, won't it?
Yeah, that sounds good enough. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think Black Box, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he set a very good lap time in that first session. But I do remember him getting impeded on that first run into turn one. So it's a very valid concern. And I think when you see your peers coming along, then I think, coming along and getting that second lobby, then he's probably got every right to do so. So I think that makes it pretty interesting. It makes it quite an interesting final lobby, because that's another really quick driver in amongst it. So Black Box set a 16.743 in his lobby. So it just shows you the pace is really there for him. And I think probably Talent Factory are already through. I don't want to jinx them. It depends. Obviously, this last lobby can make a big difference. But yeah, they are in a good position. But every little does help.
Yeah, certainly. I'm just keeping a very firm eye on the situation at the moment. Of course, me and Cal have all got little eyes at the moment on the collective times that are currently being added together at the moment, and might I say how close it actually is amongst some of the teams here. And we're not going to give any spoilers away, of course, because those teams are all going to be getting their times obviously put together, correlated, confirmed, and then it'll be sent all out for the viewing of you guys over on our Twitter at WOR League. Give us a follow, of course, if you haven't already. But at the moment, we have got some serious competition out there at the moment. It gives us an opportunity while we're waiting for other people to join or trying to at least sort out their connections, or however there may be the issue, to talk about other teams as well, including none other than Team Valor. They obviously joining in this particular session in Lobby 4, the fourth team on this list. Very, very happy to see them here. They're obviously taking part in other competitions this season as well, but an opportunity for them to lay down some good foundation. Team Valor.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't know a lot about them. I feel really bad as a commentator. You should be prepared, but it's hard when you come to a thing like this. You've got teams coming from everywhere trying to compete for this spot, so it's pretty interesting to see. But once again, you talk about foundations. A night like this is huge for any team. I think when you qualify, you really establish yourself within a league. The standard of this, if you're in that top 10 and you can really go on and set a good standard, as this lobby is still mucking around a little bit. We've now got FRA Arts joining us, as we're now back up to the 10 teams, but I think we're still missing a few here or there, so I'm not too sure what's going on. I think we're still missing an NRX driver as well, if I'm right in saying. I think we could be making a new lobby now. I'm not too sure, but something. Yeah,
Sure.
a new lobby is the
So
case.
we've got a new lobby, so obviously you guys don't see what's happening in the background, but what I can say is it's all hell breaks loose in the background at the moment, as unfortunately it seems that we can't even host a lobby on this game anymore, but here we go. We are waiting obviously on the new lobby, and that gives us a further opportunity to talk more about the other teams here, so why don't we have a talk about Novus themselves actually. Novus also taking a part in a few other tournaments alongside the likes of Valor. It's going to be interesting to see how Novus develops here, because they were very much a the midfield team to be part of, alongside the late great Team Artemis, who of course we all missed terribly since they made their shock announcement that they were no longer taking part in competitions. Novus are the sort of middle ground team that are looking to really build now. They've laid those foundations, they know what they're doing, but where can they go from here? Surely they're going to be digging deep to try and get towards podiums, get towards race wins.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that's probably the stepping stone for them. I think I agree with the fact that they're established team now. You know, there are no mugs in this kind of league racing scenario now. They done a very good job last season in World. I think they were, I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure they joined later on this season. And when they did, they really managed to crack on and get some good results. So once again, if they qualify tonight, then I think it could really set them up for a good season, because I think if you qualify tonight and a great driver doesn't qualify with his team, it allows teams maybe like Novus to pick up some really talented drivers, because I think after tonight you could possibly see a possible switch around in the kind of driver market, you could see, with drivers leaving teams that didn't qualify to go to teams that qualified. So I think that could be a big one tonight, and if a team like Novus qualifying tonight could be huge.
Yeah, it's going to be a big thing, of course, for Novus as well. I mean, obviously, big fan favourite in the Rev Caterpillar himself, obviously a big fan and big part of the Novus team. He will be fielding some serious talent, actually, in the fact of NVR. NVR themselves racing, I believe, in the McLaren. They're racing none other than Axe and Amine tonight. Amine is a cracking driver, actually, one that really laid some great races last season, in that sort of midfield. So he'll be pushing towards the front alongside his teammate Axe. So it's going to be interesting to see where the two McLarens come in this one. And of course, they have the likes of Black Box here, of course, the Talent Factory driver, where he'll be the one that will be setting sort of the pace, the ones that potentially probably maybe get through in the qualifiers. If anyone can get anywhere near that lap time, they can put a smile on their face thinking we have really, really put ourselves in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that one. I'm a big fan of or Amini, or however you pronounce the name. Joe, he's a fantastic driver. We've seen it last season. Some pretty standard performances. I think Singapore comes to mind. There was a crazy race that Singapore won, but he did a great job there, picking up some good points. And I think he'll be looking to do the same once again. He's got the pace to try and qualify. As we've now got Loveland helping us spectate as well. I'm not too sure if he's allowed to do that, but he's doing it nonetheless. So we've also got Loveland getting to spectate this session. But big lobby this one as well. 13, the biggest lobby we've got. We've obviously got a couple extra guys who are getting to go again. So that makes it all the more interesting. But I think it'll be a little bit more because we've not got the full lobby in yet. We've still got Jam Pancakes. I think I recognise he's not in, and I think a few other guys as well. So this could be probably the biggest lobby we've had so far.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll keep an eye out and see how that performance is. By the way, Valor was the issue that we were having with in the previous lobby. It looks like one of their drivers couldn't connect in. But Valor fielding FRA drivers, of course, the Fury Racing Association also decided to close their doors alongside the likes of Team Artemis this season. And their drivers all dispersing to different teams, and Valor sweeping up 2 of their drivers in Arch and Stokey. So both of those drivers still fielding their FRA names, to say the least, probably just to maybe say a big thank you, I think, to the FRA team, who have been astronomical, let's say, throughout the last few seasons, last few years actually, really setting the precedent for some very quick drivers, including none other than the Otis Lawrence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how can we not forget about Otis Lawrence? Obviously, we'll see him race this year for VSR, of course. Obviously, moving seems FRA no more, and the VSR is the new name for him. So we'll get to see him VSR and PSR are your 2 teams that we will not see tonight, but they've already qualified due to the performances last year. I think PSR more so will be buzzing with how they were last year. Obviously, the dominance of FRA meant that probably PSR didn't really get a fair shot at that constructors, but I think this year they've got a great chance, as this lobby is still just getting made. We're back to equal car performance. We've got 14 drivers in this lobby, and I think we possibly could be going soon.
Yes, fingers crossed we will get this lobby going as well, because I'm starting to begin the yawns, would you believe? You know what, it's been a bit of a difficult one for me, Cal, obviously running a little bit late after a very late day at work, so left me in a particular position where I ended up nearly starting this stream about 3 or 4 minutes late, so big apologies anyone that might have missed out on the last 3 or 4 minutes, the beginning 3 or 4 minutes of maybe intros and my voice speaking with a really stupid tone, but we now move forward, of course, and we are now waiting for the drivers to get themselves ready and raring to go. It's going to be an interesting scenario. Well, thank you very much to all 104 of you who are really holding on for dear life like we are at the moment to try and keep the flow of this conversation going without leaving any dead air. So I'm going to keep quiet and let Callum fill in the gap with something.
Oh wow, you've really thrown me under the bus there. Wow, unbelievable. Uh,
I'm not joking. Go on.
I'm hoping this lobby ready's up soon. I'm really grasping at some straws. Joe,
you can find it.
I'm going to find something.
I believe in you, Cal. I believe in you. Come on.
Joe, I'm just going to see if we've got any of the relatives for this final race. See if we can find out what the kind of cut-offs will be. Obviously, I'm not going to say it on stream, but there's nothing been updated, so the guys, they won't completely know what they're going to be setting for this last lobby. But I think we'll be looking. I think after that last lobby, I think a 0.7 will be good enough. I hope you agree with me here, but I think around a 0.7 should be enough for getting through into this final, getting through into World, I think, is the main thing. But
you've got to be in the mid to high sort of 16s if you want to have any chance of sort of matching the pace of potentially up to 6 or 7 teams that were all within that sort of realm. So we might be talking hundreds, because of course with PSR and VSR automatically qualified, we've only got 8 spots available essentially. And when we're talking maybe 6 or 7 teams all within hundreds of each other, every hundredth is going to count, and you've got to count yourself in it if you can at least get a couple of drivers into the 16s. That is for certain, as we're now starting to see eventually the lobby now getting going, as the lobby is now readying up, and we can breathe a sigh of relief as we can now begin our final coverage of this 4th lobby of WOR LD and this qualifier. And of course this is going to be a big one for some of these drivers, including I believe the ones to watch, St George Esports, who are certainly going to be very happy that they're involved in this tournament, because they had a magnificent first season. So where can they team up alongside the likes of Novus? And of course keep an eye out as well on the Team Factory driver, who is having another go at this session after being blocked in lobby number 2. That gives him the opportunity to at least have another go, and that will actually set a precedent for those that want to try and get into the qualifiers. That's one for their watch, to say the least, as we've got people in the chat going absolutely mental for Rev at the moment, as the likes of Crispy going in there as well, saying going happy for Rev indeed, as we are finally live for this particular event. And that may sell you one slight thing indeed, these drivers are all very keen to get going after that wait.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a strange one for these guys. You've had to wait for the last, hour and a half to get going, and then it gets delayed even more. This is not easy for them at all. So it's a bit of pressure building up now. It's not easy for the guys to try and compose themselves now and get going, but they're all top talents at this, and they will be looking to try and get going, get a good lap in, settle into the lobby, and just try and find their rhythm because it's been a long wait. I'm sure they've been maybe watching the streams or hearing about the lap time set, so they'll know what's expected of them. And over the next 18 minutes, I think this is the quickest lobby we've had so far, and I think we could have a lot of things change.
Yeah, the drivers all very, very keen to get going in this one here. And of course, I think these Legacy Division drivers will be very, very keen to set the initial precedent. Can they be the drivers that manage to sneak in and get themselves a position in this? It's been a fantastic Season 1 tournament. Certainly looking forward to see what we've got coming up for Season 2. There is the Team Factory driver, the Talent Factory driver of Black Box. Now, very, very interesting indeed for Black Box and of course for the rest of the lobby, because he is the driver we're going to be watching to see him set the precedent. And of course, if he sets a lap time deep into the 16s, the other teams have got to be in that realm if they want to have any shout at potentially sneaking in to the Legacy Division this season.
Yep, I'm just looking at the two guys out first are your two St. George Esports drivers, McCabe Sam followed by Jam Pancakes 44. The two of them starting by the means to go on out first, and they're going to be trying to look to finish first. So we'll keep an eye on McCabe Sam now as he's starting his lap now. He'll be looking to really try and get into those low 16s. You would probably imagine Jam Pancakes on the controller. This isn't a favourable track for someone like him. So McCabe Sam, you're probably going to have to try and maybe carry his team ever so slightly throughout this session. We do have both very, very capable drivers. Good first sector there, or good turn one, I should say there, from McCabe Sam. He now approaches turn 3. Third gear there for that one, and a fourth very nicely indeed. They're nice and smooth from the car, not ragdolling it about too much, just making sure it's valid, keeping it within the lines. And so far, pretty nicely done from the Haas drivers through that right-hander there, flat out. Not too many cams. I was in a 26.5 first sector. That's a little bit quicker than we've seen from a few of these guys. So far, so good from McCabe Sam.
Yeah, so far so good from the McCabe Sam, and so far so good from St. George Esports. As we just have a quick look at the chat, see Jacob asking the question of why is FRA not using Elite? Well, the reason why is because that isn't FRA. Despite the names that you see there, that's actually Team Valor. FRA disbanded at the end of last season, and unfortunately meant that their drivers had to find other teams, but the FRA's loss, of course, is other teams' gains, and that Team Valor taking Arch and taking Stokey, who are both carrying the FRA badge, I'm sure, as a big thank you to the team for what has been a magnificent few years. So we'll keep an eye out on how they perform for Team Valor, but we'll keep an eye out immediately out of the blocks for how these drivers will do in McCabe Sam as he comes across the line for St. George Esports with a 1 minute 16.7
Wow.
straight out of the blocks, and then Jam Pancakes with a 17.2, so well down the field at the moment for him, but plenty more pace available as FRA Arch for Team Valor comes across the line with a 17.0. And then look at that one from Nando Jr. Really, really good lap indeed from, I believe that to be the OP team, who will be crossing the line with a 16.8 and another 16.8 respectively, as NRX immediately coming out of the blocks with Rusty 16.6. Now that is a precedent from a team rejuvenated and reborn.
Yeah, didn't want to say I was right about saying this is the fastest lobby, but they're absolutely proving my point so far. One of our quickest times was a 16.6, I think, so far. And we've got a 0.6 and a 0.7 already on the banker runs, 0.8s as well from the two Ferrari OP boys, so looking very good from this lobby so far. Just looking Mendes, GTZ, and that Aston Martin coming around the final corner. Let's see what he can do. No lap time, of course, for him. This is his first lap time of the session. He comes across line to 17.9, a little bit off the pace, unfortunately for him. He'll be looking to improve on that one.
Keep an eye out on Novus's axe at the moment. He's just gone through the first sector. He's heading through the straight, not straight in the second sector from this lobby four. So last opportunity for these drivers here as we just see him take the curbs, but taking the curbs very gently yet very aggressively at the same time. That was a very, very odd way to describe it, I'm sure, but very, very well taken nonetheless from Axe. He heads then through into turn number 13 and wants to keep it nice and tidy where he possibly can. He has got a Mercedes in front of him in the way at the moment. One of the NRX drivers, I believe, might be Levi on this particular occasion. As he's actually coming into the pits, it might actually be Rusty. And actually, Axe is coming straight in by the looks of things, so that is over and done with on that particular occasion. The Belgium hero himself, Amine, down in 10th, yet to set a lap time. And here is the FRT driver, Brood, who gets another opportunity after getting blocked in lobby 3.
Yep, it's an interesting one. These guys getting all these different types of opportunities, but I think they're not going to be complaining a hell of a lot again. I think we've kind of seen it a little bit in the last lobby, that benefits you can get, but also sometimes it isn't always a benefit. We had the TF10 driver who went quickest, and then we had the WR driver on the second go who was the slowest and didn't set a valid lap time. So say what you want, it doesn't always mean it can be an improvement with Black Box. So far P5 at the moment, that's 16.9. He'll be looking to improve because I think it was a 0.7 he set the last time he was out on track. So yeah, a bit of time to be found for him if he wants to try and make the most of his second session run out.
GTZ only setting 1 lap time at the moment, and it's a 17.9 in the Aston Martin, so well down the field at the moment for the GTC team through Mendes. So Rodaz will need to set a lap time at some point. He's still in the pit lane at the moment, and his teammate Mendes just coming back into the pit lane as Emine has just started his lap now for the Novus team, as he's now heading through into turn number 3, and actually very well taken, actually goes for the wider entry, wider exits rather, keeps it as wide as he possibly can. Wide entry, wide exit going through turn number 5, and actually very well taken so far. 26.7 initially set for Emine, and might say purple in the bottom left, but that isn't purple on this occasion. He's actually down by about a tenth and a half on Rusty in the first sector, so he's looking to try and keep pushing where he can, going around the straight, not straight, and he'll go into turn 10 and 11 looking to try and keep it gripped if he can, and he will go through these corners, actually, to be fair to him, quite well by the looks of things. He then heads through down the straight into the corner that could mess people's laps up very, very easily, but on this occasion very well taken from the Novus's Emine, as he then heads through and very, very, very right to the edge actually, and could have potentially invalidated his lap, but on this occasion managed just to keep within the limits. Little bit of a wiggle through the final corner though for Emine. He'll be hoping to get into the 16.9s if he can. He can't. It's a 17.0, misses out by just over a tenth.
Alpine number 2 from the last lobby, now Alpine number 1 we're going to have to call now. Unfortunately not managed to set a lap time yet, invalidating, but I think he possibly could be on an out lap, so he'll be looking to try and go again. I'm trying to see if there's anyone coming to the end of their laps, but for the most part I think it's drivers either just starting laps or coming to start their laps. So yeah, just keep an eye out on these guys now, because I think it's a pretty big wave of drivers now on a lap.
Good run so far from those in the top 4. Certainly Rusty leading the way for NRX at the moment. Levi a little bit down the order with a 16.9. I never thought I'd say that, because a 16.9 is really what you're looking for if you want to try and be competitive. I think Rusty with that 16.6 has really massively helped NRX's chances of qualifying here, but Levi would be very I think a personal endeavour to try and get into the 16.8s if he can, and try and split maybe the 2 OP drivers who are looking really sharp, aren't they, actually, in the Ferrari with those 16.8s respectively. McCabe Sam flying as always magnificently for the St George Esports team, as we just go on board now with FRA Stokey representing Valor on this occasion. Of course, remember, FRA no longer a team in the esports world, as we say RIP. He now heads through into turn number 5 and just getting past one of the spinning GTZ cars. That one might have actually been Rodaz on his lap. GTZ looking like they're struggling on this particular occasion. Stokey, though, looking relatively well, actually. Quite conservative on this occasion, but not so bad at the moment.
Yeah, not bad at all. We should keep an eye out on McCabe Sam, what a lap time he was on, but spinning, at that final corner, so it was a shame for him there. But Stokey, he's looking pretty good. No validation from him so far, and I think importantly, he needs to just get a lap time set there. It's a pretty good team, this Valor. They've got high expectations, and a high expectation is just to qualify for the thing. First of all, is a big moment there, just showing you how on edge car is now trying to find a bit more time. Is Rusty. Oh wow, a 16.453, the quickest time we've seen all night. And wow, really just showed his intentions, but what a lap time that was. Now let's see what Stokey could do coming around that final corner. I would be very impressed with a 16.4, but a 16.8, not far off. Very, very good lap indeed, in P5 he goes for the Alpha Tauri.
The thing is that 16.8 and the 16.815, 16.820 is a really, really good set of laps there from the wow, I'll get there in the end, the Velar team, but a really, really good performance. But with how close everything is, are they at risk of potentially not qualifying, I wonder? That is the question. And look at OP as well, at 1.3 and 4, now 3 and 7, as a result of these impressive lap times that have been coming in thick and fast. And we still have 8 minutes to go in this session, with Rusty setting a 16.4 of all laps. What a lap time indeed from the man that could not keep his car in a straight line at times last season. The man is showing some so amazing pace in this session, and I'm wondering if NRX with Rusty have got themselves one hell of a driver ahead going into the season.
Yeah, I think you could be right, because he is looking very, very quick indeed. And yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting. What a lobby this has been in general, by the way. I mean, this has been super, super impressive. 7 minutes left, and we've got 16.4. We've got over half the grid already in the 16s. So yeah, crazy stuff all over the grid.
So keep an eye out then on LP number 1 now. Brood, the FRT driver, blocked in lobby number, not lobby number 3 it was, wasn't it? And he ended up having another go as a result of that one, but very, very gentle going through the first sector here. I'm wondering if he's setting a bit more of a conservative lap on this occasion. FRT, not really in the ballpark. Lobby 3 was one of the slower lobbies on this occasion. I think you'd have to argue probably the slowest of the 3 lobbies that was run at the time, and probably the slowest of the 4 that's being run as well, with that 16.4 from Rusty. What a lap time indeed. And TF Blackbox with a 16.7 for the TF team has just been absolutely astonishing to be 3/10 in front of them, who looked so quick in lobby number 2. So Brood will be looking to at least try and get into the 17.0s if he can, I suspect, for the FRT team, but I'm expecting that this initial lap time probably won't be in the 17s, as Rusty has got another set of boots on and he's having another go on this one. He might have another 2 laps actually here, so could be on here for breaching into the 15s if he's going to be improving at the pace he is. Here comes Brood, then it comes across the line. It is a 17.7. It was not just conservative, it was let's be candid, slow on that particular occasion, so a bit more pace to find on that one here. Let's see what Mendez does then for GTZ as he's looking to come across the line himself. 17.9 is the lap time for him as he now starts on his lap here, and the Aston Martins are not looking comfortable out there.
No, they're certainly not looking really on the pace at all. We've got 17.6, 17.9 respectively. It just isn't enough, to put it bluntly, so it's just a shame for these guys, but they just don't really have the pace to qualify at this track specifically. But you never know what the last 5 minutes can produce. I've seen pretty stranger things. What I mentioned, Jam Pancakes unfortunately invalidated his lap, which puts him in a little bit of a predicament when you think 17.2 is not enough for St George. He's going to really have to improve, especially in the Cape Town. He's got that high 0.7, so improvement is near enough necessary for Jam Pancakes if he wants to see St George qualify into this event. So yeah, big couple of minutes up for those 2 St George boys. Rusty's looking to go again as well. Black Box is looking to start a lap. So these guys at the front as well, looking to try and stretch their legs.
Yeah, certainly are at the moment. I'm just keeping an eye out on Rodaz at the moment, who's looking to try and improve on his lap. In fact, he's just about to start a lap, so we'll actually go on board with his teammate Mendez again. He was up 9 thousandths in the second sector, rather. Sorry, I'm not sure about his first sector, but to say the least, 9 thousandths is not going to be enough when you're in the 17.9. So he's going to have to try and improve as he comes across the final corner, across the start-finishing line, just at the end of this straight here. And he'll be looking to try and improve if he can. He does. And actually into the 17.5, so he's found at least another few tenths, but he needs to find another few tenths on top of that one, to say the least. We'll keep an eye out on GTC's performance, as NVR still are waiting on a driver yet to set a lap in Axe, who has a really, really aggressive run through the left-right, and he absolutely lost the rear, but very well caught indeed as he now chucks the car into the corner. And I tell you what, very well taken indeed, as we just have, I believe one of the OP drivers has just come across the line with a 16.6 of his own. I believe that was Ascomi with a good lap indeed, so he'll be happy with that one as Nando Jr. stays in there. So you have to say OP are within touching distance of qualifying here. They've been absolutely astonishing in lobby number 4. We'll see how Axe comes across the line with Novus with a 16.845. Good lap time indeed from him as well. Amine will at least need to find at least another 3/10 and get into the 16.7s if they want to have any chance of potentially qualifying on this occasion, especially with how OP have been performing. They are certain anyone in the 16.9s could actually be at risk, would you believe, on this occasion. So Jam Pancakes really needs to find at least another 3 or 4 tenths, to say the least, and I must say he has the pace to do it, but the consistency's not there. He invalidates again.
I know, when you look at his teammate McCabe Sam, 16.6, he stays there for Stokey now. He comes across line 16.605, so nearly breaking to those 0.5, so great stuff from him there. But yeah, Jam Pancakes here needs to find a little bit of time, as what I mentioned, since WOR made it in the chat. The cut-off is now a 17.8, I think, is the kind of, no, 17.8, a 16.7 0.8, I think, is roughly what the cut-off is. So you're really looking at 0.8, possibly 7 now, I think, when you take into account this lobby for teams to try and qualify. So I think if you're a 0.9, I don't think it's going to be enough. And if you're a 17.2 in Jam Pancake's case, it's definitely not going to be enough.
1 minute 16.743 was the lap time that Black Box set in lobby number 2. So he's now up on his lap time. So this will be the lap time that he takes with his teammate, who actually also scored a 16.6 of his own. So looking fairly sharp at the moment for the team at the Talent Factory. Looking very sharp indeed, actually, our Talent Factory. They've been very impressive in this qualifier, as has actually Team OP as well. They've been astonishing, to say the least. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers all sort of fit out the rest here, as Team FRT are at serious risk of being knocked out here, with Brood well down the order with a 17.7. That conservative attitude needs to go, and it needs to go now.
Yep, absolutely. There's no time to try and play the long game or whatever. This is absolutely everything. There's 2 minutes 18 seconds left of the World Qualifiers. It's now or never. Literally, if you don't qualify, you probably won't see in WOR this season. So a big couple of moments coming up here. And this has been a decent lap from him so far, from Alpine number 2, but I'm not too sure if it's going to be enough. A 17.7 the time from him so far. And you know what? It's not looking great, as I don't want to try and be so pessimistic on stream, but it's not looking too dandy at all. Just under a 10th up, coming through this left-right. He's going to do probably a minor miracle now in this final sector if he wants to see any chance of his team qualifying.
Under 2 minutes to go then left in this final lobby of 4. Thank you to every single one of you who's been tuning in for this amazing qualifying session, which has been, to say the least, impeccable when it comes to the performance of these drivers, especially the likes, let's be honest, of the NRX team, who have fielded an amazing runner in Rusty with that 16.4. Brood is looking to try and get future in the hopes of potentially qualifying. As he comes across the line, it's a 17.3 for the FRT driver as he now skates off of turn 1, and I think that possibly may be out of frustrations. We just keep an eye out on Jam Pancakes. He really needs to get into the 16.7, 16.8s if he wants to look confident here, as he'll come across the line, and he will not be setting an initial lap time on this occasion. Looks like he had to abandon that one. This is his final attempt. This is crucial for St. George.
It absolutely is. I think when you've got McCabe Samway a 0.6, I think roughly a 0.8 could do it for Jam Pancakes, and he really has to get a great lap time here. On the controller, he's at a severe disadvantage. This is not a track made for him. We know how good he can be at a track that he loves, but I'd imagine Australia isn't one of them. He's coming through here, slight left through that right-hander, just making sure he keeps it valid. What is that sector spike? A 10th of it up though, that's really good stuff there from Jam Pancake. As he flings it through that right-hander, he's giving it absolutely everything. He's a man that loves England and needs to use every bit of love for England now if he wants to try and see St George qualify. A 10th of it up is just about enough if he can keep this up through these final few sectors. Let's see in the top right, what is he up now? Let's see, it's not as much now, it's just 200. He's lost some time there in that middle sector. He's coming through that left right. He's gave it absolutely everything for a man in the controller. He's got that car turning, coming into now turn 11, breaking around about that 50 metre board. He's managed to just make the corner ever so slightly. He's carried a hell of a lot of speed in there though. Coming through now this long right-hander 6th gear, making sure not to invalidate, and he's done that sublimely. This final sector could possibly just about make this lap for Jam Pancakes. Coming through the final corner now, just dabbing that throttle. He finally gets the car straightened up. Let's see, DRS enabled. Foot back to the floor. Let's see if it's enough for St George as they come across line to 17.1. That's only good enough for P11.
Oh, that's a bit touch and go, to say the least, as NRX Rusty, excuse me, 16.337 for NRX, who have almost surely certainly confirmed their position with that one, because that is absolutely astonishingly fast out there at the moment is Rusty. He's so confident here at the moment, as TF Blackbox can't improve on his 16.6. That will be the end of that one. FRA Arch for Valor will be happy with a 16.8. His teammate in the 16.6. That will make them feel confident that they potentially might be through. And then Axe will not be improving on his 16.8 either. And Emine couldn't improve and stays into the 17s. NRX Levi, 16.9 in 9th place. Can you believe that? He finishes in 9th, but still with a cracking lap time. But 6/10ths down on his teammate. Rusty is certainly the man of these 4 lobbies. He has been astonishing in this lobby.
Yeah, do it. His hats off to him, because I think I can confidently say NRX will be through, and that is all because of Rusty. Let's put it that way. It's a fantastic lap time from him, and it is miles clear of the rest of the field. It's kind of Otis Lawrence-esque in a sense, where he's just that couple 10s ahead of the rest of the field. So a huge congratulations to Rusty, because that was a fantastic performance from him.
Yeah, big up as well. Ollie Loveland as well, looking out for the team as well, and he'll be happy that his team are running riot with Rusty. 16-3. What a performance from him. Stokey, in the end, finishing in second place with a 16-6. Wow, I can't believe I'm saying that. McCabe Sam also with a 16-6, as well as the man OP Ascome doing a really good job as well for OP, and I think they'll be confident with a 16-6 and a 16-7 respectively. Splitting them, though, the Talent Factory team with Black Box 16-6 for them, 16-8 for Axe, 16-9 for Levi, 17-0 for Amine. Towards the back, Jam Pancake 17-1 down the field, and then Brood for FRT 17-3, and then GTZ really did not feel comfortable out there, 17-5 and 6 respectively. That is actually it now for all of the qualifiers. Every single one of you have been tuning in for what has been an amazing qualifying and an amazing event with some real topsy-turvy situations, to say the least. We are going to be heading full force into race number 1 very soon, but who with? Keep an eye out at WOR League. Thank you very much for watching. From myself and the rest of the team here, it is bye-bye for now.